Welcome back, folks. It's What If Naruto Went to the UA High with his fox Quirk. Full movie, sit back, relax, put on your earphones, and let's dive in. Chapter 0, Prologue. Everyone, please take a seat, spoke the homeroom teacher who clapped his hand to get the attention of everyone present. Luckily, the students seemed to be obedient enough to stop what they were doing and go to their respective seats. The Oakwang Middle School is a private school which had existed since even before quirks had started to manifest and become a pivotal part of their own society that started to depend on those meta abilities. The private school was named after the former emperor of Japan, Oakwang. Now then, Q moved towards the podium and stood firmly, while behind him was the blackboard which he often wrote on whenever lessons started. But today was different from all the days before, since today will determine the very future of his students. "You look like Sensei Q," 𝐤𝐢𝐽 offhandedly remarked, making many in the class to snicker at that since their sensei just looked like he came right out of his bed. Q-sensei's shirt collar was open to reveal his bare chest, and even his black tie wasn't even properly done. Traffic is a problem nowadays. Q excused himself, making the very same outdated lie like all the time. He came looking like he just got pulled over and mugged in broad daylight. "Don't you get tired from making the same excuses, sensei?" Naruto asked from near the window at the back of the classroom, with 𝐤𝐢𝐽 sitting right in front of him and snickering since Q has been making the very same excuse every day. "Isn't this our job as students to make such a lie?" Mira asked, as well as she too sat in front of 𝐤𝐢𝐽. The three troublemakers snickered even further as they made such jabs, but those were half-hearted ones given the friendship they had with their sensei. "Who said teachers can't lie? If anyone told you that, they're definitely lying," said Q before he realized that he was wasting time and decided to let out a cough in his hand to rein his behavior, since he didn't want to be fired or have his salary reduced. Oakwang Private School's old history is one of the factors why people still join it. It also has strict quirk regulations that are being enforced, unlike most other middle schools that clearly fail to do so. So every student that joins the private school is protected, as they are the responsibility of the staff. Students and the staff are encouraged to develop friendly bonds. This is in order to get the students to feel comfortable with going to them in case they were to have any problems. Most students in other schools fear their teachers and hesitate to go to them for any of their problems. Now, today's homeroom class is going to be different from all the ones before, as we're going to be discussing what you're all going to be doing for your own future after graduating from this private academy. Q spoke, managing to shift into a professional tone, knowing when to take things seriously. Everyone shifted into their seats, clearly aware of what their own teacher was implying. There was excitement bubbling up for many who either wanted to be a hero or those who wanted to join their favorite high school. There will be handouts that will be passed, so please fill them in so they can be submitted. There will be two options: your main one, which is your primary choice, and a secondary one, which is basically the backup option. Q finished as he divided the current stack of paper and handed it to the first row. The first row student took one paper from the stack before passing the rest off to the ones behind them. This distribution process had only taken less than a minute before everyone had their own form to fill. Everyone didn't need any further instruction since they had done this before. You kids are adults, so I don't think I need to tell you to take this very seriously, because this paper is your future," said Q, acting like a mother hen. But it was not like the students hated such a thing, as it made their sensei approachable and not some stiff guy. Naruto stared at the paper. Out of habit, he started to read all the unnecessary paragraphs that were usually written at the very start to not be caught with his pants down. You'd be surprised at how most would put some loophole that is bound to screw you over in the middle of the lines. After ensuring that he is legally safe, he started to note down his options. His first choice was naturally the hero course at UA. It was hard to get into, but Naruto was very confident in his own strength given his training. It also helps that Dad and Mom had trained me in martial arts, so I'm already qualified. My quirk is also strong and is trained to an appropriate level, while the rest will be naturally left to UA since they're a hero school. Naruto mused to himself. His second option was a respectable business high school. Since his father is a businessman, he is bound to inherit it as soon as he is of age. So having a degree in this field might be helpful in the long run, and it also helps that both 𝐤𝐢𝐽 and Mira are aiming for a business course given their situation. They have yet to decide between the UA business course or a regular high school with a good reputation. As he noted all of that down, he reviewed just about everything to make sure that everything is working in order. With that done, he slid the paper back on the table. He noted that the rest of his classmates had already finished. Some had just taken to quickly writing their choices, while others had a look of hesitation as if they were unsure of what they wanted. It was only natural that you'd hesitate in this situation, since Japan's education system is difficult. By the end, everyone had filled both their options, and like how the papers were distributed, Naruto handed his paper to 𝐤𝐢, who in turn did the same with Mira, and so forth. Q-sensei collected the paper from the first row. Naruto, you're going to be joining the hero course at UA, right? 𝐤𝐢 asked rhetorically, given that Naruto's dream, along with a majority of their class, had dreamt of going to a hero school. UA, being the top hero school in the country, intimidated some in the class, so they simply chose other schools like Shiketsu, known for being the second to UA. Ketsubatsu Academy is an also known hero high school with a very good reputation, maybe not at the same level as the two others, but good enough. Yes, I feel like I can do good, especially with my quirk, and joining the symbol of peace alma mater will be a good way to start, said Naruto as he walked side by side with both 𝐤𝐢 and Mira, whom he considers as close friends in this very school. I don't see the appeal in heroes like you do. I feel like the hero industry has lost sight of its purpose, which is to save the people. Nowadays, new heroes are more concerned about showing off than to save lives. Mira was quick to comment while holding disdain in her voice when she thought about the new heroes. Don't be offended. This is just my opinion. Statistically speaking, the rate of good heroes that remained active is extremely low, and while I doubt you'd fall in those bad categories, you're bound to be given a hard time by those corrupt heroes, said Mira, correcting herself while Naruto shook his head. It's fine. I'm not offended. If I was offended, then I shouldn't consider being a hero, since criticism will be a common theme for heroes, Naruto said, which made the two smile at it. I know exactly what I'm getting myself into. Besides, if I do actually succeed in the hero industry, the three of us could actually work together. For example, I could advertise not only your family dojo, but also 𝐤𝐢's dojo, Naruto said as he pointed out with a grin. Oh, getting advertised by the future hero would definitely be helpful. I will be relying on you from now on, 𝐤𝐢 said with a laugh as he gave a playful punch to his shoulder. Amazing. You were actually thinking of us, Mira said in an almost tearful manner, seeing her friend actually put much thought into this. Her family dojo that was on the decline ever since her late father's death could actually grow and regain its reputation. It's only natural since you guys are my friends here. So, I will definitely support you too, while having you two support me as my first two fans before I make my debut as a hero. Naruto laughed as he said that while the two had smiled as well, since they could see themselves doing that. We're certainly your fans. After all, your cause for being a hero would fall in the category of noble, unlike most others who want fame and money, 𝐤𝐢 pointed out as he remembered how the three had come to be close friends with each other, while Mira also nodded to the words said. 𝐤𝐢 didn't want to be a hero, even though his quirk would easily allow him to become one. The reason for that is because he didn't think he qualified to be a good hero, since he is a selfish person and he can't see himself fighting for others who are bound to spit on his face. Quirks have a strong grip on how our society operates. It will be nice to see changes done to its structure, since you're fighting on behalf of those who are born with mutant-type animal-type quirk, which is a very worthy cause. Mira continued after 𝐤𝐢 as she thought about Naruto's motivation to be a hero. Those with mutant-type quirks, especially those who gain animal-like features, are subjected to harsh bullying from those around them. Naruto was a victim of bullying, but he never once tolerated such behavior and proceeded to break people's noses with a good right hook. In general, most people in society believe that people with animal-type quirks should be treated as such. Some had even suggested that those people get to be gathered and thrown into a zoo to serve as entertainment for the rich and the other citizens who have such an unusual yet disgusting fetish. Naruto received such bullying even though he can easily switch from his fox form, as he dubs it, and his human form, but people still looked down on him until he changed middle school, when his parents became appalled by the system that refuses to change and act condescending. 𝐤𝐢 and Mira were some of the first who stood up for him, when someone of his former classmates from his old school thought it'd be funny to ambush him and beat him, which wouldn't have worked out. Even then, 𝐤𝐢𝐳 and 𝐵𝐸RA had jumped into the fray and started to clobber everyone up. Hence, their friendship had started ever since then, and it remained strong. 𝐵𝐸RA got along with his mom, and 𝐤𝐢𝐳 got along with his dad, who would often give him advice on how to start a business. An explosion could be heard interrupting the conversation between the three friends. It was unusual given that Mizutofu is a decently peaceful city, so the streets were always patrolled, and most villains that cause trouble are just low-level thugs trying to make a name. Let's not bother with that. The heroes should be sufficient enough to deal with whatever fodder villain that appears on the streets. 𝐤𝐢𝐳 suggested having a tired look since he didn't want to see who the villain that will end up being one-sidedly beaten down and used to increase the hero's popularity. I'm still trying to understand why the people are acting like a bunch of NPCs. 𝐵𝐸RA pointed out, as the civilians had quickly moved towards the fire scene in order to see the villain get his ass whooping, even though most of them have their own life. It's not surprising. Villains nowadays are just reduced to noobs who are only good at being trampled all over. Then again, this is a hero society, and so the city is constantly being patrolled by many heroes. What can one single villain achieve on his own? Naruto pointed out while his two friends nodded. And oops, hilarious but true. 𝐵𝐸RA cackled as she heard how Naruto just referred to the villains, but then again, they had it coming since they're going solo against a country filled with thousands of heroes. What's happening? One of the civilians was quick to ask another one. The other civilian shook his head with mild annoyance, clearly not happy that the streets were blocked like this. That Sludge villain from the morning had taken a hostage. The problem is that the victim Quirk is causing damage to the surrounding area. The heroes on the scene are unable to do anything. The second civilian replied, causing the three friends to get curious. I've heard that the villain is trying to insert himself inside the victim's windpipe in order to possess him or something of that sort. No wonder the heroes are unable to do anything. One wrong move, and the victim will die in a brutal way. Another chimed into the conversation. For real. Hopefully, another hero will be able to save the poor kid caught in this. The first civilian spoke in a worried and sympathetic tone towards the victim that was suffocating to death. It was an unpleasant way to leave this world. The three friends heard this, and their curiosity got the better of them as they walked towards the scene. The reason why they never went to this kind of hero versus villain scene is because it's predictable. The hero would always win, and the villain would always lose. 𝐵𝐸RA also didn't want to see the vanity that heroes tend to display whenever they defeat a villain. Every hero is competing over who would defeat the villain in the flashiest way possible. They also tend to charge their special move as slowly as possible to generate clicks on social media. This is ridiculous. All these heroes on the scene can't figure something out. 𝐵𝐸RA exasperatedly said as she saw the Sludge villain holding some ash-blonde bastard as a hostage. In hindsight, the enraged blonde wasn't helping the hero when he's igniting just about everything in a radius with his explosion quirk. None of those heroes have the quirks suited for this task. 𝐤𝐢𝐳 commented calmly as he saw the heroes trying to put out the fire while waiting for backup to arrive and help with this situation, since they were hopeless. Some heroes are trying to negotiate with the villain. The Sludge villain's body should make him immune to any physical damage, and he can't be captured. Naruto noted as he looked at Death Arm and even 𝐫𝐞𝐬𝐴, who were standing there helpless and unable to do anything to this situation. He's also cleverly using the hostage to direct the explosion attack, so if they make a wrong move, you bet the explosion will be hitting them. Naruto added as he watched the scene unfold. It was an unpleasant sight to watch. I know that, but those are supposed to be licensed pro heroes trained in every scenario. Hostage scenarios should have also been part of their training. 𝐵𝐸RA argued her case, as she didn't take any pleasure in watching someone dying from lack of oxygen. Gasps and shouts interrupted their conversation when they saw a frail-looking green-haired teen rush towards the fire scene. It was beyond reckless, and the heroes on the scene had started to shout for him to return, but the teen wasn't even listening to them. Seeing this, the three friends looked at each other and clicked their tongues. The boy was too frail to do anything of significance, so they decided to also rush and help as well. Naruto summoned 2 energy-based golden tails and pulled his 2 friends alongside him, as he took a leap towards the scene. They ignored the shouts to stop as they flanked the idiotic green-haired teen from all sides while punching away at the attack. The teen proceeded to throw his backpack at the Sludge villain's eyes in hopes that he'd be lucky, and it had thankfully hit the bullseye, causing the villain to scream in pain. 𝐤𝐢𝐳, using his quirk, had proceeded to create a path by putting out the fire that was near them with his water quirk. The Sludge villain was clearly startled by this, but he tried to send attacks at the 4 teens that are rushing at him. Mira had jumped and used her 𝐫𝐞𝐻 sword to cut down the Sludge villain attacks while using her quirk, which caused 2 yellow tails to appear in her head, showing that her quirk was activated and gave her a boost in all of her current stats. Given the green-haired teen's earlier move, an opening had been made which caused the suffocating ash-blonde teen to take gasps of air. Naruto, seeing this, had then used one of his tails to wrap around the hostage body and pull him out of the Sludge villain before he could try and pull him back. "No," shouted the villain upon losing his hostage and his only ticket out of this mess. Before he could do anything, 𝐤𝐢𝐳, without being told anything, had proceeded to encase him in a water bubble made by Hades, trapping him for a few more minutes. "Let's retreat," Naruto said as the 2 friends smiled while grabbing both the ash-blonde teen and the green-haired teen and made a run for it. They could easily take down the villain, but it was not their job to commit any more acts of vigilantism, even though they already broke some law. Regardless, the 3 friends, along with the hostage and the other reckless green-haired teen, had made it safely behind the police tape, having safely returned without suffering any injuries. "What are you all doing? We have an opening. Let's rush and apprehend the villain before he tries to escape," 𝐫𝐞𝐦 shouted, clearly impressed by the action of the 3 teens, who actually had a plan behind this madness in rushing a villain. The pro heroes on the scene were startled and surprised at seeing such a rescue operation, but with 𝐫𝐞𝐦 breaking them from their stupor, they quickly rushed to apprehend the Sludge villain before he broke free from the prison of water. The crowd of civilians cheered at seeing such a smooth rescue operation that was carried out by 3 capable teens. The villain was quickly apprehended before he could offer any resistance. The EMT had quickly rushed towards the teens in order to treat any injuries sustained by the victims. Naruto, 𝐤𝐢𝐳, and Mira had tried to sneak away from the scene, but the other heroes had quickly flanked them to prevent them from running away. The EMT also rushed towards them as it was their duty to check on their health in order to make sure they weren't afflicted with anything. "Are we in trouble?" Naruto asked rhetorically, since he already knew that they were all in trouble for having committed acts of vigilantism by using their own quirks when they don't have permits. "Technically, you 3 should be in trouble, but considering the situation, you'd likely receive a light slap on the wrist and be let off with just a warning." Mount Lady spoke as she shrank down to her human size and approached them with a smile. "They still committed acts of vigilantism," 𝐷eathArm said as he crossed his own arm, while looking at the 3 with a stern look that didn't intimidate them in the slightest. It was plain obvious why 𝐷eathArm was very upset about this situation. 𝐷eathArm was a very prideful hero. The fact that he stood there unable to do anything while the hostage was suffocating to his death was a blow, but some teens had carried out a flawless rescue operation worthy of an award was the final nail in the coffin, so he was very bitter about it. Yet they saved the life of 2 civilians who'd have likely died, which wouldn't have boded well for any of us. 𝐫𝐞𝐦 spoke as he walked towards them while giving a glare at 𝐷eathArm, telling him to just accept it as it is and stop raising a fuss over it. 𝐷eathArm clicked his tongue and tried to make an argument over this, but he saw that every other hero beside himself had the backs of the 3 teens, and that he had no ally. Technically speaking, they didn't try to take down the villain. They more or less pulled out the hostage and the reckless green-haired kid away from the scene, allowing us the heroes to apprehend the villain. "If I had to say, I'd have them all rewarded." Mount Lady spoke her honest thoughts on the matter. The other pro heroes that were on the scene, such as 𝐫𝐞𝐦, Backdraft nodded their heads agreeing with her. If the ash blonde teen and green-haired teen died, it would have been a black mark on their career. They will be known as the heroes who let 2 civilians die on their watch. They're just middle schoolers. The fact that they managed to pull off such a flawless rescue operation without being hurt is what impresses me the most. They would definitely deserve a medal for that, said Backdraft, causing the 3 teens to feel bashful. "Whatever." 𝐷eathArm reluctantly spoke as he left, clearly heading towards the green-haired teen, intending to let off some steam and some much-needed aggression on the stupid kid who had earlier rushed to his own death hadn't he not been saved. "Don't mind him. He's just jealous of you three. Death Arm is really prideful. Mount Lady spoke with a giggle. The three friends realized that Mount Lady wasn't as bad as they thought she was. It's fine. We were kind of aware that we were committing an act of vigilantism, but it would have been very unpleasant to watch one suffocate to their death and the other get squashed gruesomely on the street floor, said Naruto while rubbing his back. I can't let my friend rush alone, so I followed to help. 𝐤𝐢𝐽 answered rather bluntly. It was the truth. He only went along because Naruto happened to want to save the two. Albeit, part of him did want to help as well, but he would not admit it. Same. Although, I guess I didn't want to see someone die like that. I'm glad everything has been resolved quickly. Mira said, bashful, and being somewhat of a tsundere, refusing to admit fully that she genuinely wanted to help, so they mostly used Naruto as their reason for doing so. So cute. Mount Lady spoke, feeling touched to hear such strong camaraderie, which is very rare, especially in the hero industry, where some treat each other as enemies and try to up one another in order to increase one's popularity and rank in the hero billboard chart. At the end, the green-haired teen got scolded immensely while the ash-blonde teen received praise. It made the three friends frown upon seeing this, even though they also received the same treatment as the blonde teen from earlier. That was really nice, Mira whispered upon leaving the scene. She had her phone out to see the news, and true enough, their heroic deed was covered in the newspaper. It felt nice to see this, and it made her understand why most find a lot of appeal in being a hero. It's a completely normal reaction. No one out there dislikes the idea of being praised or complimented by others, said Naruto as he too was looking at the same news article that currently covered their own heroic deed in saving two victims that would have died. 𝐤𝐢𝐽 didn't say anything, but a smile was on his face. He clearly felt good to receive such compliments and praises from others. Even if he tried to pretend to be indifferent, it still puts a smile on his face when people show him such a feeling of gratitude. While being a hero was never their thing, but they could now understand why people generally aim to be heroes. Helping others and receiving thanks is a pleasant thing to hear. They now can see why Naruto found the idea of being a hero appealing. Oi! A voice interrupted their peaceful walk as they turned to look at the two people they had earlier saved. The green-haired teen was standing meekly a few feet away from his childhood friend, or rather his bully, while the AHS blonde teen had a scowl. Thank you for helping us earlier. The green-haired teen was quick to show his gratitude by bowing his head towards the three good people who helped save him and his childhood friend. The blonde glared at the green-haired teen that made him cower away. I didn't need your help. You here. Certainly not your help, or that quirkless little, shouted 𝐫𝐞𝐽, clearly not intending to be civil or even be polite like his former childhood friend, which made Naruto, 𝐤𝐢𝐽, and Mira frown as they looked at each other. Funny coming from a guy who got taken as a hostage by a third-rate villain. Naruto fired back very quickly, startling 𝐫𝐞𝐽, who didn't expect anyone to ever dare to challenge him when he had such an amazing quirk suited for heroics. You must have gotten some screw loose from being made to give the villain a deep throat. I certainly don't envy you right now. Mira mocked while giving an obvious condescending laugh that made 𝐫𝐞𝐽 even more shocked. They say that those who bark the loudest are usually the ones compensating for being small. Getting a very good look at your face. I guess you're only just a side character given that you nearly got taken out by a fodder villain whose only achievement is stealing a purse. 𝐤𝐢𝐽 fired back as well with a grin. The three friends proceeded to burst out laughing, while 𝐫𝐞𝐽's face was turning a shade of red, matching Naruto's crimson red hair. Izuku, on the other hand, was gaping in shock at seeing 𝐫𝐞𝐽 being humiliated like this. It was clearly a new experience. Why, you bastards? 𝐫𝐞𝐽 started to speak with his hands releasing sparks of explosion as if trying to threaten them, but it didn't make any of them flinch, which seemed to only anger 𝐫𝐽 even more because his little trick always worked on the other extras. Stop talking such big words. It makes you look even more pathetic than you already are. We saved you because that's what a hero would do. A hero does not need a reason to save someone, Naruto said as he glared at the blonde moron. We certainly don't want your gratitude to know that we did good, even if the person we just saved is a pile of explosive garbage with no manners at all. Mira said, taking pleasure in roasting 𝐫𝐞𝐻. Given that you just got treated as the Sludge villain personal little bitch, you should stop with those little matchsticks, because if you got jumped by a weak-ass villain, then you certainly don't stand a chance against us. 𝐤𝐢𝐳 just fired back as well, seeing the explosion in 𝐫𝐞𝐻's hand. 𝐫𝐞𝐻 was humiliated beyond anything he ever experienced. 𝐤𝐢𝐳 was still gaping at seeing this. Everyone had always sucked up to 𝐫𝐞𝐻, but yet the three before him didn't do so, and instead had insulted and ridiculed 𝐫𝐞𝐻. It felt really good to watch. Also, that quirkless little, as you call him, had saved your worthless ass. He has far more character than you. Naruto spoke as well, which surprised 𝐤𝐳𝐻 to hear this, and made him smile awkwardly, having never received such nice words. While he was very reckless, his plan did give an opening for us to pull off your rescue, or you would have been just another one of the casualties in the yearly statistics. Mira spoke rather smugly towards him, which left 𝐫𝐞𝐻 baffled at what he was hearing. He may be quirkless, but he has a heart. You're just a bully. The only thing you are good at is picking on others weaker than you so as to make yourself look tough, 𝐤𝐢𝐳 said as he shook his head with disgust. 𝐫𝐞𝐻 felt intimidated for the first time. Those are people who weren't even intimidated by his tough guy act. Their eyes held fierceness that showed that if he initiated the offense, they would smack him around and leave him beaten black and blue on the side of the streets. Hell, they could take him 1v1 no problem. He'd be reduced to nothing more than a punching bag to the three. As a result, he clicked his tongue in a cute act of defiance before he bolted away while shouting profanities. His pride had been wounded for the third time this day. The first time when he was captured by a third-rate villain that he could easily blast away. The second time when he got saved by some 3 extras and that Deku who has no quirk and is then useless. The third time was when he failed to intimidate them and got humiliated instead. I guess he was only good at barking loudly for attention, but at the end of the day, he is a coward, Naruto said dismissively. He clearly expected this kind of outcome, because it wouldn't be the first time they met someone with this kind of godlike complex. It's a shame he didn't fight back. I wanted a reason to smack the living out of that good for nothing. Ungrateful bastard. Mira said clearly, still pissed off at the attitude that the blonde had taken against them. Don't waste any more of your energy on him. He's someone not worth it, said 𝐤𝐢𝐳 as he certainly didn't feel anything towards 𝐫𝐞𝐻's act of defiance and had instead laughed it off. It did make his day to watch that bastard run away like this. Also, you, the quirkless kid, Naruto called out to 𝐤𝐳𝐻, who was startled and looked rather meek. The 3 troublemakers understood that he must have had it really hard with someone as volatile and explosive as the previous teen around in his life. You should have some self-respect. I don't know why you allow someone like that to intimidate you or push you around, said Naruto with a frown, while the green-haired teen 𝐤𝐻𝐻 looked even more embarrassed and shy, not knowing what to say. It's because 𝐫𝐞𝐻 is amazing, so everybody thinks he's going to be a great hero, said 𝐤𝐻𝐻 in a low, stuttering voice, while the 3 friends looked absolutely baffled by such a response. The blonde bastard wants to be a hero. He's likely going to be a villain than a hero. What kind of bull reason is that? Did you smack your head while growing up? Mira asked, while 𝐤𝐻𝐻 got intimidated by Mira, who looked very pissed at him, giving such a lame defense for a bully. No wonder he's treating you like garbage. You're practically an NPC at this point, 𝐤𝐢𝐳 said, while 𝐤𝐻𝐻 looked confused and baffled at being called an NPC by the people who saved him as he saw the look of disappointment on their faces. You're practically sucking his at this point. You should stop that. It's really disturbing to hear that. How he treats you is not heroic at all. If anything, if the laws are being exercised properly at your school, he should be thrown into a juvenile detention center, said Naruto with a sigh. Whatever argument 𝐤𝐻𝐻 had to say in order to defend his tormentor was gone down the drain. He was not a confrontation type of person, so he could never try and convince those 3 otherwise. Not to mention, a part of him would rather not upset the 3 who were nice to him. You should never accept anyone walking all over you, because they will do it again and again, because you clearly are allowing them to humiliate you and make you less than a man, Mira advises while huffing, clearly not liking how 𝐤𝐻𝐻 is trying to defend a bully. You should also look at trying to take self-defense classes or even training. A breeze of air could knock you out of your current state. Be better than this. 𝐤𝐢𝐳 finished with a smile. At the end, the 3 of them left 𝐤𝐻𝐻 behind. They've already given their own advice to the green-haired teen. If he decides to follow it, then good for him, but if he continues on the same path, then it's fault, and he deserves to be treated like that. Unknown to the three, All Might had been watching the interaction and was smiling, clearly proud. He had nearly interfered in the last attack, but was very surprised when he saw those brave teens interfere and save Izuku and the victim of the incident. While he had wanted to personally thank them, he had run out of steam, so he can't keep his buff form, and he can't afford having 3 other people to know about his injuries. As a result, he waited for them to leave in order to finally be able to have a talk with Izuku. He's a tad frail, so passing down OFA to him would be dangerous. I'd like to first build his body to be able to house the Quirk. Those 3 also made good points, thought All Might, as he contemplated also getting Izuku into some martial arts class if Izuku were to accept being trained by him. The whole confidence aspect could work on itself, since Izuku should naturally be more confident once the results start showing and he acquires a quirk to be able to join the hero course at UA. Chapter 1. Entrance Exam. It's been a few more months since the Sludge villain incident that took place. Naruto, 𝐤𝐢𝐽, and Mira had made it on the news for a few more weeks, and they were apparently viewed as some superstar by their other classmates in their school for doing what the heroes couldn't do. Apparently, the heroes on the scene beside Death Arm had given them very favorable comments when they were interviewed by the media. This did help them in an unexpected way, since even UA had personally wanted them to join the hero course. It was the equivalent of receiving a scholarship to your favorite university, but this is more like a recommendation letter. While both 𝐤𝐢𝐽 and Mira had still remained firm in their stance, they still decided to join the business course at UA High. The difference between a normal business course and the one at UA is that the latter mostly delve in the hero side of business. From founding and even managing hero agencies to executive producing heroes. They even do some hands-on lessons in venture capitalism. Since Naruto is more of a martial artist and knows how to fight hand-to-hand and even use swordsmanship, if they were to found an agency together with Naruto at the center of it all, their business will boom and be successful. So the 3 friends decided to work together. The more Naruto grows in popularity, the more their business will also grow. So in conclusion, the 3 of them are helping each other rise to the top. It was a goal that even Q-sensei had found to be far noble and had even kept encouraging them to go through it. Naruto still decided to take the regular exams and not the recommendation letter in order to prove himself. UA accepted his request and are eager to have him in their hero course. Good morning, Naruto spoke as he walked down the stairs. His family was pretty loaded, so they lived in a 2-story mansion. Given who they are, their mansion was built with the purpose of fitting all 3 of them comfortably, but without any unnecessary spaces. One can even say they were more on the minimalist side. They didn't really go around buying anything that would end up collecting dust on the shelf. So the mansion was far more modest for a family that could easily afford to buy a far larger property. Good morning, son. Minato greeted back with a smile as he raised his cup of coffee he was holding in his hand, which he was drinking. He had then shifted to look at the newspaper that is covering All Might joining the staff at UA High, which many seem to be excited about. Naruto's eye darted towards the clock hanging on the wall, and he noted that he was still rather early, so he had time. Kushina, with a smile, placed breakfast on his table, which caused Naruto to smile as he received a kiss on the side of his head. Good morning, son. You should start eating. Today is your entrance exam, so we can't have you late since the staff there must be holding expectations for you, Kushina said with a pleasant smile on her face. Yeah, my bad, Naruto said, chuckling nervously as he rubbed the back of his head. He remembered how worried his mom was when he returned back after the Sludge incident. His dad did calm his mom down and talked her out of the panic she was in. You don't need to apologize. At the end, you've guaranteed yourself a spot at UA High, which is the symbol of peace alma mater. Minato butted in as he let out a chuckle. In the end, everything did go well for them since UA were really interested in Naruto and his friends. Naruto started to eat as he watched his mother take a seat opposite of him and next to his father, who was currently occupying the head of the table, since he is the man of the house. Kushina was slightly embarrassed at the reminder of how she acted that day. While I do have faith in you, a mother at the end worries over their children regardless of how tough they may be, said Kushina with an embarrassed look, since she did blow it out of proportion that day when she checked over Naruto to see for any injuries. I know, and I really appreciate it, said Naruto with a smile, since he didn't really mind how she worried over him and acted like a mother hen. Kushina felt grateful for how understanding he is since others wouldn't. Besides, you did the right thing. I'm sure the parents of those two you and your friends had saved are immensely grateful for you saving their own child who could have died that day. Kushina said with a smile on her face while Minato had a knowing look. Apparently, both Inko and Mitsuki had gone to the internet to try and locate the parents of the one who saved their two brats. They had found Kushina, who is a well-known web designer. At the end, Kushina had received a very heartfelt thanks from both women. Unlike Katsuki, it seems that his mother was at least mannered enough to show gratitude to her family. Mitsuki was somewhat aggressive, but so was Kushina, who had her bad temper, so they got along quite fine, and the three became good friends. Mitsuki would often complain that her brat wasn't such an upstanding person like Naruto or 𝐤𝐢𝐽. Inko, on the other hand, worried so much over her only child, and she looked like she was going to burst into tears at any moment and drown everyone within radius. Kushina truly enjoyed the company, and she helped them get introduced to the mothers of both Mira and 𝐤𝐢𝐽. So Kushina now had a good circle of friends from among the other mothers. You taught me to help others so that good karma would return, Naruto said with a smile, as this was what he was taught by both his parents. Be good and live an honest life that you could be proud of. Don't do what you wouldn't want others to do to you. Those are what he was taught growing up. His parents wanted to instill in him some moral code. To not be like all others who judge others based on their quirks, their financial status, or anything else. To always do good and be better than others, even if the one you're dealing with is a piece of. And you got good karma, didn't you? UA is now interested in you and even recommended you to take the recommendation exams, said Minato with a smile, clearly satisfied to see that his son had adhered to his and Kushina's teachings from an early age. Now finish your breakfast before it gets colder, Kushina said with a gentle smile, clearly happy to hear that her son adhered to their teachings. Naruto nodded his head and started to finish his breakfast, which didn't take him less than 5 minutes. Naruto then excused himself from the table in order to take a bath and change into his clothes for the entrance exam. He was excited for what's to come for his future at UA High. Good morning, Naruto-kun. 𝐸suka spoke as she noticed him walking inside the UA grounds and rushed towards him. Naruto raised both his hands, clearly startled by how she had quickly closed the distance between them before she threw herself in his arm to give him a kiss, which he returned back. Good morning, 𝐸suka. Naruto greeted her back with a smile after the kiss between them had ended, having wrapped both his arms around her waist. She then gave him a bright smile, clearly happy that he made it in time, albeit they both came early today. 𝐸suka Kendo was a childhood friend. While Naruto had learned martial arts from both his parents, they had decided that he needed to make friends and also compete with others. Hence, they signed him in multiple martial arts dojo to get him to be open-minded. Since he wanted to be a hero, both his parents thought it would also be very beneficial for him to try his hand on different forms of martial arts and not get comfortable relying on his gifted quirk or his family martial arts. As a result, he was introduced to 𝐸suka at the Kendo dojo. Since 𝐸suka attended a different middle school, they were unable to hang out all the time aside from their martial arts practice or when they went on dates together after they got into a relationship at one point. They had also talked with each other on the phone if they couldn't meet. So in that sense, their relationship can be classified to be very close or rather intimate. They never really took their relationship far compared to most other people who are under the impression that dating involves sexual intercourse because it was not important. I was really worried that you might come late given how important today is, said 𝐸suka, not hiding how anxious she was even though it was still half an hour early. The future aspiring heroes are waiting outside until they are called inside. UA is watching me very closely and no doubt, expectations will be quite high on how I perform. Coming before the allotted time would show them that I am at least taking this seriously, Naruto explained, since it would be unpleasant if the staff got the wrong impression that he is some cocky kid. You're right. You've always been serious about this kind of stuff, said 𝐸suka, realizing that she was worried for nothing. She knew Naruto's character, so she shouldn't expect anything less from him. As they walked inside, Naruto's eyes darted carefully to assess those that were participating in the UA entrance exam this year. Some stood out more than others, And there were those that had no presence at all, mostly due to them being too nervous or they just looked plain. Midoriya and 𝐫𝐞𝐻 are here. Naruto mused upon seeing 𝐫𝐞𝐻 shout at Midoriya, causing the green-haired quirkless teen to get startled and stand far away from 𝐫𝐞𝐻's sight. They never changed, mostly in terms of attitude, still being the same, albeit. Naruto noted how Midoriya seemed to have taken their advice and just started to train since he now had a decently well-built physique. Not only that, Midoriya seems to have reflexively taken a judo stance, as if ready to counter 𝐫𝐞𝐻 if the latter were to swing his fist first. So he started to train in martial arts as well. Good for him. But what's more interesting is the fact that he now has a quirk. Naruto thought as he used his fox eyes and saw the aura around Midoriya shift in color, which is a massive indication that something changed. Before, Izuku's aura was pure white, which is an indication that he was empty. As a result, Naruto was not surprised when he was revealed to be quirkless by his childhood bully, but now Izuku's aura is sparks of green. Is it possible for quirks to awaken this late? While late bloomers were actually rare, but they happened as most kids awaken their quirk at around the age of 8 to 9 instead of at the age of 4. There was never such a case where someone awakened their quirk at the age of 15. He is at a massive disadvantage. He is surrounded by people who had their quirk for an entire decade while he had it for around a few months. Would he even be able to use it? Naruto pondered even further at such a revelation as he checked once and finally confirmed that Izuku Midoriya had a quirk. The rays of the sun started to dim out as they made it inside the building and into the auditorium, where they took a seat based on their number. Apparently, they were distributed around the room based on their affiliation middle school they were in. Damn it, we will be separated. Itsuka complained upon seeing that they were going to be sitting at different corners of the room. Naruto felt the same, but he was not going to complain about it since this is UA High, and so it was best to listen. It's fine. Once we finish the entrance exam, we can hang out later. I can take you on a date too. Naruto offered, which tempted Itsuka, who readily agreed to bear with it, and gave him a peck on the lips. Okay, I'd love to go to the cinema later, Itsuka said in a hushed voice, being mindful of the others there, while Naruto nodded his head in acceptance since he planned to take her to the cinema, knowing the newly released movie was something that she wanted to see. I didn't know you had a girlfriend, Naruto-kun. What a shame. Jenny spoke in a rather flirtatious tone upon seeing him sit down among those from the Oakwang private school. Naruto made sure to avoid her by sitting away from her. She's a childhood friend from the old days, so our relationship goes way back. So it's only natural that I'd have interest in her, since she is strong and I like strong women. Naruto replied flatly while she swooned over him at the words he said. I'm strong too. Would you date me? She asked in a flirtatious tone, while pushing her finger to her chin while trying to act all cute, which made Naruto look disgusted, but kept any such comments to himself. Luckily, he didn't need to say anything. Jenny, you're being a thought right now. Ryu came in defense of Naruto, who was getting disturbed by Jenny's flirtatious nature. He received a slap at the back of his head from Jenny for all his trouble. How very rude. Then again, you must be jealous that you are such a boorish-looking man, and that you don't stand a single chance to be with someone like me. I really like handsome men like Naruto-kun, especially when he plays hard to get. Jenny was unremorseful in her flirtiness. I know I'm really boorish and plain-looking, but at least I don't have a record of having men of all ages run me like a trained 247 like you do. Ryu fired back at her while Jenny gasped in shock at what he just said. Naruto turned away to hide how he just nearly burst out laughing. It was true. There was a rumor surrounding Jenny that she is trying to create her harem of handsome men, but her ideal man is the submissive type whom she can order around. She even had some of those beta males who possess some good looks to bring her things and buy her stuff. Naruto was regarded to be extremely handsome, especially whenever he had transformed into his nine-tail form. Apparently, Jenny was hoping to add him to her collection. He honestly never liked her. She's probably trying to turn him into her pet, but unlike those beta males, he is self-respect. Naruto looked at his phone and saw that Itsuka had sent him something. She apparently saw what was happening, and since he did tell her about that crazy woman beforehand, Itsuka wanted to come here and clobber this bitch. For all you 𝐸 listeners tuning in, welcome to my show today. President Mike spoke coming at a good time when Jenny looked like she was about to rip Ryu's head for having insulted her twice in just one sitting. After all, Jenny had her pets to defend her dignity. Everybody say hey. Present Mike shouted as he extended both his hands in the air in an exaggerated manner, before he followed by placing a hand near his ear, as if expecting everyone to actually do it. But the entire auditorium was silent, with some being in disbelief that this was an actual staff at UA High. What a refined response, said Present Mike, not losing his smile, but feeling somewhat stiff and disheartened that nobody seems to share his excitement, especially since they're aiming to join the best school. So he expected some reaction. Then I'll quickly present to you the rundown on the practical exam. Are you ready? Yeah. Present Mike shouted once again, clearly not knowing the word give up, as he tried to get the student to react and show more spirit, but they were still silent. I guess I should admire his spirit and his refusal to give up. Naruto mused clearly, feeling amused by Present Mike, as he heard some snicker at Present Mike under their breath, while Jenny scrunched her nose in disgust. As it says in the application requirements, you listeners will be conducting 10-minute mock urban battles after this. Present Mike started to explain while still doing those ridiculous poses, and his smile remained unwavering despite everything. The screen behind him started to change and formed a word. You are here before it is divided into 6 different segments from AG. Naruto pulled the sheet that is given to each of them beforehand to get a good insight on the practical exam, and he understood for the most part what it is. You can bring whatever you want with you. After the presentation, you'll head to the specified battle center. Okay? Okay. Present Mike explained before he tried to hype everyone, but nobody responded to him, which seemed to bother the hero at the lack of enthusiasm. In hindsight, I can understand why he's trying to get a reaction from the rest of us. Naruto mused, since being a hero isn't always all about defeating the villain, and just calls it a day. Heroes also go around rescuing the people, and so you have to be at least capable of comforting the civilians. If the future aspiring heroes can't even show some level of enthusiasm, how are they going to be able to comfort a civilian who is panicking? So they're more likely to scare them than to comfort them. This is why All Might remained at the top, and why Endeavor had remained a second fiddle to him. Endeavor attitude made him unapproachable, and as a result, he was never a fan favorite, thought Naruto as he remembered the behavior of the number 2 pro hero. Even then, Naruto was never going to cheer along because he'd look even more stupid, and he would like to keep his dignity intact and not look really childish by going along with this. Besides, Present Mic's voice is really loud and may come off as annoying to listen to. Exam ticket, examinee no, 2255. Test location, Battle Center C. There were other details that were added, such as his name and the date of the exam, as well as the time, which are February 26th, 9:30 a.m. to 11:40 a.m., which means the exam will last at around 2 hours and 10 minutes. Battle Center C. I ended up in B instead, Ryu said as he leaned to look at his exam ticket, which Naruto didn't mind, as he allowed Ryu to see where he had ended up in. Just like Naruto had predicted, they were all in different battle centers. It was to avoid any students from the very same middle school to team up in order to sabotage the other students. If 𝐤𝐢 and Mira were with him, they definitely would have teamed up and cleared the entire battle center. Don't you want to know about where I ended up in? Jenny asked, being mindful to keep her voice hushed while still leaning to try and give a view of her curves by squeezing her arms in a way to make them look bigger, but he didn't look in her direction. I don't care to know, said Naruto, not even looking at her, since she was not worth his time, and he certainly did not care where she ended up. Jenny is still annoying, and he prefers that she doesn't succeed in entering UA since he did not want to deal with her. Her quirk was not that impressive. It was just a mere enhancement that had granted her an above-average level of stats. Even if she did become a hero in some way, she will be stuck in the 3 digits. Basically, she'd be a nameless hero. You're being so mean, Naruto-kun, but that's what I love about you. She continued to outright harass him. It was pretty obvious to those who heard this crazy bitch talk and sent him pitying looks. Each side is filled with 3 kinds of faux villains. Points are awarded for defeating each according to their respective difficulty levels. Present Mike explained as on the screen behind him showed the 4 faux villains, including the point you receive from defeating them. Use your quirk to disable these faux villains and earn points. That's your goal, listeners. Of course, playing the anti-hero here and attacking other examinees is prohibited. Present Mike finished his explanation before, from among the crowd of students, One stood up. "May I ask a question?" An examinee asked as he raised his hand, which resulted in the light shining on him, so he could be seen by all the others while Naruto rolled his eyes as he stole a glance and already knew what to expect to hear. A stickler to the rule. I was wondering when one of them will pop up and try to act all smarty-ass by rebuking UA. Naruto mused as he watched the look in the teen's eyes that blatantly showed his intention, which is to rebuke 𝐤𝐢𝐽 for something. There appear to be no fewer than 4 varieties of faux villains on this handout. The glasses-wearing teen pointed out as he showed the handout sheet, which features the explanation that Present Mic is doing. Such a blatant error, if it is one, is highly unbecoming for 𝐤𝐢𝐽, Japan's top academy. We're all here today in the hopes of being molded by this academy into model heroes, shouted the glasses-wearing teen with a noticeable stick shoved all the way up his ass. For someone trying to act all smart, he really is stupid, thought Naruto as he looked at the handout. There were 4 faux villains, and each of them were appointed rewards in the form of points. The last faux villain happened to be a 0-pointer, meaning no award for defeating it. Since it was not granting them any points for defeating it, there is no point to go after it because it would be a big waste of time when you could already be doing something more productive like earning more points. So they're most likely advised to avoid it than to go after it. Naruto focused back and saw how the 4-eyed bastard started to rebuke Midoriya for his muttering. You'd have to be sensitive in the ear like him to be able to pick up on the muttering, but Mr. Glass's quirk is in his legs, seeing as his aura was concentrated in his calves. What an asshole. Naruto muttered to himself as he saw how people seemed to laugh at Midoriya, who had quickly covered his mouth reflexively and offered an apology even though he didn't have to. All right. Examinee 7111, nice catch. Thanks. Present Mic interrupted quickly as he waved his hand to calm down everyone, feeling pity for Midoriya, who got called out like that by someone with such a massive stick shoved up all the way up his ass. But the 4th faux villain variety gets you 0 points. Think of him as more of an obstacle. Have you all played Super Mario Bros.? That very old retro game. Present Mic explained, and even gave an example which made Naruto perk up in interest since it definitely looks like a Super Mario game. It's kind of like a thwomp, only one at each side. A gimmick that'll rampage around in close quarters. I suggest that you all just avoid it and focus on just destroying the other faux villains to earn points. Present Mic advised, which made the bespectacled teen to bow his head and offer his gratitude. If that 4 eyes had any intelligence, he'd realize that this is just a replication of a real-life situation. Most heroes would be required to not confront the villain and instead focus on persevering the life of the civilians, thought Naruto as he placed the handout away. Being a good hero isn't always about beating the villains. Endeavor had the most solved villain cases even compared to All Might, but yet nobody likes him as he is an asshole. That's all from me. I'll leave my listeners with our school motto. The great hero Napoleon Bonaparte had once said, "True heroism consists in being superior to the ills of life. Plus ultra," shouted Present Mic, which made many smile unconsciously. "It's time," Naruto said as he stood up quickly and started to walk away to the changing room. He didn't plan to waste time talking with others. He's held to a much higher standard compared to the lot of them, and he's not saying this to brag. "Naruto-kun, wait up. Don't you want us to go together?" Jinny spoke up, still persistent, while Naruto gave her an agitated look. Why can't she take the hint and leave him alone? Besides, why would he go together with her? So he continued to walk away, albeit with a fast pace. "We're not in the same battle center for us to go together, and even then I'd appreciate you not breaching my personal space," said Naruto, annoyed, and hoped that UA would not allow these crazy women in their institution because he'd rather not deal with her for the next 3 years. "Come on, you don't need to be so shy." Jinny continued to flirt, seemingly ignoring anything he just said. Him being shy? Is this woman blind, or does she not do well with rejection? "Hands on my man, you hussy," Itsuka said as she stomped towards them as she pointed her finger at Jinny, who turned to look at the orange-haired teen. Despite how intimidating Itsuka looked at the moment, Jinny was not. Instead, she was blowing bubblegum. "But you must be Mrs. Girlfriend. You wouldn't mind sharing, don't you?" "I know Naruto-kun is packing a literal bazooka underneath those pesky-looking pants," Jinny said, trying to act all friendly with Itsuka while licking her lips as she looked directly at Naruto's pants. "I feel extremely violated at the moment. Why are you even looking at mine in the first place?" Naruto grumbled as he tried to get away, only that Ginny was not going to easily let him go. 𝐫𝐞𝐻's face flushed red as she knew that Naruto was gifted, but she didn't want to hear that from this hussy. "I'm not sharing him with anyone. Certainly not with you," shouted 𝐫𝐞, clearly ready to beat the living daylights out of this hussy who thinks she can act all flirty with her man. Nobody does that, while Ginny rolled her eyes as if she didn't care. "A prude. What a boring and dull woman. If I were you, I'd jump him and ride him until those balls are all dry, but you haven't even done that yet," Ginny declared while 𝐫𝐞 was even more furious. "I'm not a prude. If he wants to me, I wouldn't stop him," 𝐫𝐞 declared with her face bright red for having said that, while Naruto's face reddened at her words. 𝐫𝐞 was attractive, so the thought of betting her was something that he often thought about. He was a male. It was only natural that he'd be attracted to the opposite sex, and given their current societal structure, sex before marriage is common, and only those who are extremely religious would choose to wait until marriage in order to lose their chastity and maintain a status of purity. Naruto never brought up such a topic because he didn't think that it was really that important, and he wanted 𝐫𝐶 to determine the pace of the relationship without adding any sort of pressure or any sort of expectation that will force her to try and please him. He made it clear to her from the very start that if she feels uncomfortable with certain acts, then she should not hesitate to tell him, and he will back away and respect her. This is what both his mom and dad had taught him. They had taught him to be a gentleman, albeit his mom had often reminded him that women are equally perverted as men, but are better at hiding it compared to men who are radiating lust and are vocal about their carnal desire. Chapter 2. Practical Exam. Naruto arrived at Battle Center C without any more trouble after managing to successfully avoid Ginny by going to the men's changing room. Currently, he wore a black sleeveless muscle shirt, and underneath it he wore a white pants. This was his current sportswear. He drowned the noises from the other examinees that were pumped about the practical exam, especially seeing the large cities that were built close to each other. Naruto was impressed, but he felt that UA is flexing their wealth by going around building those large cities. At the very least, I can expect that the training facilities at UA will be on the same standard, so I could train my quirk without having to worry over actually destroying things. Naruto mused, since his quirk was versatile, but also very destructive. Even then, Naruto looked around at the competitors. Very few of them have shown promise, while the rest can be classified in different categories. There are those that stood with confidence, acting like they've already had their own names written on their desks at UA. They won't make it when the actual exams really start. Naruto thought in clear amusement, since he knows that destroying those robots might not be like what most had imagined. The pictures of the robots on the handouts are not good enough to give them an idea on its actual size. For all he knew, with how grand UA is, those robots may be as large as an actual human, or maybe even larger. So those people who chose not to even warm up before the exam starts will be met with the cold, hard truth of reality when they fail. Naruto, on the other hand, was circulating the heat of his flame in his body. It was a substitute to warming up, albeit he prefers to warm up through actual exercise instead of using his quirk in this way. Regardless, Naruto stared at the other group who were trembling and were showing nervousness. They're likely more intimidated with the sheer size of the city, and especially the weight behind the name of UA. Naruto can actually understand a little of how they feel. If you manage to get into UA, you're basically set to graduate as a top hero. So many people genuinely want to enter the national high school in order to become heroes. Even then, few of them would actually make it before his eyes shifted to the last group. The last group was a mix of both the two earlier groups. They're confident, but they also know their own individual strength and are already formulating plans in their head while warming up and making sure that they are ready for what's to come next. And begin! President Mike's voice shouted at the intercom installed all over the different cities built inside the UA high grounds. Seeing the large double door open, Naruto immediately bolted inside without even thinking twice over it as he used acceleration. Acceleration was him circulating the heat of his flame aspect of his quirk to get his body function to accelerate, giving him immense speed as he zipped through destroying robots and leaving behind a trail of fire in his wake. The other examinees were startled, but before they could offer any complaints, President Mike's voice ringed once more in the intercom, urging them to get moving, hence causing the examinees to panic and stampede inside in order to earn points. But to their horror, the robots were destroyed. In only a minute since the exam started, Naruto had already cleared 25 of the entire City C of its robots, tallying a count of 50 points for himself since the exams had started, and he continued to advance, intending to display his utter dominance in this exam. I will clear half of the city and leave the other half of the city for the rest of the examinees, Naruto thought with a grim look as his hand ran through the head of a three-pointer robot, crushing it before it could even formulate any form of counter against him. The cries of the other examinees, some filled with profanities directed at him for not leaving a single robot behind, and those that were pleading him to just slow down and give them a chance to earn a single point. Naruto knows he is selfish, but the world is not fair. Most heroes go around stealing the quarry of others. The whole hero industry is one filled with heavy competition. If you fall back, then you have no one to blame but yourself. As a result, he continued ignoring them. Beep. What? Midnight shouted in disbelief as she saw the monitor displaying how Naruto had just cleared 25 of the entire City C in only a minute and tallied a count of 50 points for himself. She wasn't the only one shocked by this, since the rest of the staff were muttering about it. He's that young man from the Sludge incident months ago, one of the three who had gone off to pull off an impressive rescue operation. Ectoplasm spoke with a hint of disbelief, while the others nodded, remembering this very clearly, since they did offer Naruto a recommendation letter. "You've noticed it, haven't you?" 𝐤𝐢𝐧𝐝 asked as he stood up properly and pushed himself off the wall he was just leaning on. He walked next to 𝐫𝐞𝐬𝐵. Usually, he wouldn't really bother with watching this, but now he was more interested in seeing what the redhead would do. "I've noticed 𝐤𝐳𝐴𝐽. Mr. Uzumaki had used his flame to accelerate his body cells, granting him immense speed, as well as add wind to propel himself even further, which allowed him to clear 25 of City C on his own. I have to say, I'm rather impressed," 𝐫𝐸 said as he too regained his composure. "It's rare to come across someone who actually has a proper understanding of their quirk. I guess you were right when you said that he has a lot of potential," Sniper pointed out as he remembered how 𝐫𝐸 had wanted Naruto and his two friends to join the hero course. Most people use their quirk in a straightforward manner, but Uzumaki already has a good head on his shoulders. That's a good mindset for one aspiring to be a hero at UA High. Cementos complimented, clearly impressed just like the rest of the staff. "I want him to be put in Class 1B. Vlad King interjected, wanting to lay his own claim on such a prospective student since 1A already had too many powerful students. 𝐤𝐳𝐴𝐽 was alarmed and gave an annoyed glare towards his fellow staff teacher for his words. "You mean Class 1A? His current score is 50 and it's already increasing as we speak right now. That alone would allow him to enter Class 1A comfortably," 𝐤𝐳𝐴𝐽 pointed out while Vlad King shook his head while having a smirk on his face, as if he had already won this. "A few months ago when we held a meeting and talked about inviting Uzumaki to join the hero course through taking the recommendation exams, you didn't agree to it," Vlad pointed out with a grin, while 𝐤𝐳𝐴𝐽 remembered that day. At one point, there was a big meeting discussing All Might joining the staff at UA, and nearing the end, the conversation shifted to talk about Naruto, Dewi, and Mira. 𝐫𝐸 had suggested having them take the recommendation exams since they already showed such promise. 𝐤𝐳𝐴𝐽, on the other hand, was against it. Despite how impressive what those teens did, 𝐤𝐳𝐴𝐽 believed their action to be reckless, which could have been very lethal if they were to actually fail to pull the victim out and instead cause the death of the victim or made the hero's work even more difficult. 𝐤𝐳𝐴𝐽 admittedly had started to judge them. He believed that they were just a group of cocky teens whose heads are stuck above the clouds, and that it will do no good to grant them such privilege. In the end, 𝐤𝐳𝐴𝐽 was heavily outnumbered when it came to voting. In his annoyance, he allowed Vlad to have them if they did manage to pass the exams. He didn't think about it thoroughly, and now it came back to bite him in his rear. Vlad held a smug look as if to tell him that he was wrong and irrational, which he admittedly was. "You told me that I can have him if he were to manage to pass. I guess this is one of your irrational moments, and I get to have him," said Vlad King with a big smile on his face, while 𝐤𝐳𝐴𝐽 clicked his tongue. "Principal 𝐫𝐸 will be the one deciding where he will be put in," said 𝐤𝐳𝐴𝐽, knowing that 𝐫𝐸 will at the end put Naruto at Class 1A. 𝐤𝐳𝐴𝐽 was rather confident of that, and even the smug Vlad King will have to accept whatever their boss says. Since 𝐤𝐢𝐽 had forfeited his rights months ago, then Mr. Uzumaki will be made to join Class 1B instead. 𝐫𝐞𝐻 had answered swiftly with a big smile on his face, contrary to Aizawa's expectation, as he turned to look at his boss with a disbelieving look. "Yes, in your face, Aizawa." Vlad King cheered at having gotten his way, while receiving congratulations from his own peers for having successfully snagged a promising student like Naruto. The look of displeasure on Aizawa's face had brought immense pleasure to Vlad. "That's not logical, sir," said Aizawa, with a frown, clearly upset that his boss is working against him, and he started to think that Principal 𝐫𝐞𝐻 was doing this on purpose. 𝐫𝐞𝐻, on the other hand, hardly cared about what Aizawa had felt or thought about the matter. In the first place, it was Aizawa's bad habit of making quick judgments on others he hadn't even met that had deprived him of the chance to have Naruto. We all know that there is not much difference between Class A and Class B. Students just like to establish those unnecessary hierarchies between them in the name of rivalry. 𝐫𝐞𝐻 explained with a smile which earned him nods from the rest of the staff. Mirio Togata is in his last years at UA High and is in Class 3B despite being arguably the strongest student even compared to other pro heroes. I believe that Mr. Uzumaki will be the new Mirio, and seeing his current performance, I have no doubt that he will be even better, 𝐫𝐞𝐻 said with a smile. Not that I mean to interrupt, but shouldn't young Uzumaki take it easy? The rest of the examinees are barely scraping a single point since he started to destroy the robots. All Might spoke in worry, currently taking his base form, while everyone turned to look at the monitor. True enough, Naruto had already breached the 100 points after clearing 50 of the entire city before he stopped and chose to sit on the roof of one of the buildings. The other examinees were in the height of despair. Some had just fallen to the ground, giving up. The rest are stampeding over each other in an attempt to gather points. It was pandemonium. The rest of the staff realized that they've overlooked this, since it was unexpected for someone to be able to do that. The hero industry is an overly competitive profession. It's not uncommon for that to happen on the field where heroes would go around stealing another's quarry. It's simply how life is. It's a dog-eat-dog world. Hound Dog spoke with his arms crossed to his chest. But this isn't the field. I think it's unfair that they ended up in the same battle center as someone who could clear the entire city of robots. Midnight spoke as she had felt increasing pity for the other examinees that were trying to gain a point and those crying. Unfair? Since when has the world ever been fair to anyone? This is UA High, and we maintain a much higher standard, and it so happens that our problem child is held at a much higher standard because of the stunt that he did a few months ago. Aizawa spoke with a snort. Isn't this what UA's job is all about? To teach those fledglings how to deal with those kinds of situations. All Might asked, still feeling slightly upset over this as he saw the look on the other kids' faces that showed how they're feeling. It hurt his heart. Mr. Yagi, you forget that UA High is the one hero school in the entire country. Thousands from across the country aspire to join our school, but only 40 from among them make it into the hero course. 𝐫𝐻𝐻 spoke sternly. Not only that, there are other ways of gaining points. Even simple acts of kindness could earn them points. 13 pointed out, as while she too had felt bad for those children forced to be in the same battle center as someone like Naruto, but this is how life works. But how are they going to go about doing that? Asked President Mike, who just came inside the monitor room. He too was overwhelmed by seeing such a big gap in strength between Naruto and the other examinee, and he felt that he is still holding back. 𝐫𝐻𝐻 gave a look at Powerloader, who understood the task, and proceeded to open the safety glass, and then followed by pressing on the Uruki switch. As a result, all the battle center experienced earthquakes that shook the city as cables flew out. From the underground, the zero-pointer made his appearance on different sites and proceeded to tower over the buildings. The examinees from all across the battle centers froze in shock at seeing such a monster unleashed like this when they're inexperienced. Here's your answer. Their true test is about to start. Let's see if they truly do have what it takes to join my school, 𝐫𝐻𝐻 said as he didn't bat an eyelash over the screams of the examinees. Naruto had cleared 50 of the city of all its robots, comfortably sitting at way over 100 points. The mass panic from among the examinees could be seen clearly when everyone is going around trying to gain a point and walking all over each other. He couldn't blame them. The amount of robots inside are now limited after he had gone and wiped out so many robots. At this point, they all have to trample over each other if they hope to ever make it to UA. Those that hadn't fallen to despair are the ones who are likely to make it. Despite Naruto's kindness, he doesn't have a bleeding heart. The moment the world started to transition to a quirk-based society, the balance of the world had tilted. Your value was now determined based on your quirk. If you're born with a good quirk, good things will follow you. If you're born with a bad quirk, or one that is generally viewed negatively by society as a whole, then you're likely to face a dead end at one point. This is how their society unfortunately functions. It's a society with a follow-the-herd mentality, and those that go outside it struggle and suffer. For that very reason, the guilt he felt has been squashed very quickly. This is UA. What did they expect? Many of them held such confidence and smiled in such a cocky manner, thinking that the entire world revolves around them and that they're the MC of some generic shonen story. Despite this, Naruto did help. He had just shifted to rescuing those that were caught in the middle of the stampede. He was an aspiring hero, and rescue is a fundamental aspect of being a hero. He used a mix of fire and wind to help others. Given his control over those two elements, Naruto can command his fire to not burn the target. As a result, he used his fire to pull some away from the robot's lasers and position them close so they could score a point. Some had noticed it and were appreciative to some degree. At the end, he was still the same person who went around and started all this riot. As time passed, some did tally a good enough points that will get them in the hero course, assuming that those at the other battle centers didn't just go and score higher than them. Then suddenly, an earthquake started to shake the entire City C before the 0-point robot made his appearance using two buildings as a crutch in order to stand at its full height, which towered over anything else. Naruto was baffled. This is a 0-pointer robot? He did expect it to be bigger than the rest, but his expectation was that it was smaller than that, but not the size of an entire building. It seems that the sight of the 0-pointer was enough to get the examinees to panic. In hindsight, UA does have Recovery Girl, so they could afford to be reckless with their exams. No other hero school could pull such a stunt. Naruto mused as he stood at his full height. Since the start, he never really transformed into his nine-tail form, but he might need to. A golden aura surrounded him before the light dimmed down, revealing him with white hair and fox ears. He also had fox eyes with red corners, and both his pupils turned into slits. 7 fox tails made of flames appeared behind him, swaying. Naruto rushed on the scene, using his now enhanced speed granted to him from having transformed before he started to kick and fluidly use martial arts to crush any debris that threatened to crush the other examinees. Seeing this, the other examinees continued to get away. Focus on getting points. I will stall it, Naruto shouted as he turned to look at them briefly. They easily recognized who he is despite his transformation, given his clothes were the same, and listened. To them, as long as they could gain points, that's all that mattered. With him stalling the 0-pointer, most of them were able to focus once more on getting points for themselves. Despite most of them harboring enmity at Naruto for his earlier stunt, most of them were grateful for him playing decoy. Since this is an exam, rescue points should naturally be rewarded, so it's not like I'm losing anything. Naruto mused as he continued to destroy the debris. Even if there is no rescue point for some odd reason, he's already passed the 100 points. Jumping further, he glided through the air, using his wind manipulation, and proceeded to slap the 0-pointer's large mechanical hand in the air, since he saw how the robot tried to attack through a punch that would have leveled a good chunk of buildings in the area. I could easily destroy it, but I'm likely to hurt the others since some of them are too slow, Naruto thought as he noticed that some were running around like idiots looking around for robots. Just because he volunteered to play the decoy didn't mean they could take their sweet time. Naruto then jumped towards the roof of a building before he used wine to propel himself higher than the 0-pointer robot before he delivered a flying kick towards it, appearing behind the robot. A large fox made of fire appeared behind him and proceeded to roar while opening its maw before swallowing half of the 0-point robot. Since the large fox was made purely from flames, The half that was swallowed completely were incinerated, leaving the 0-point robot with only its lower half. The lower half of the large robot fell clumsily to the side, only to be met with a vicious kick from Naruto, so it would not fall on a building and instead fall on the street floor. A shockwave was felt in the area as everyone froze in shock at seeing such a large robot being very easily dispatched off. "Is this for real?" One of the examinees spoke with a hint of disbelief upon seeing such a terrifying robot be destroyed like this. The vast difference in power had become even more obvious because none of them could ever think of taking such large robots down on their own. There were similar comments from others as everyone watched the spectacle. For a moment, most started to forget that the exams were coming nearly to a close. Those who formerly bore hostility towards Naruto due to hogging all the robots to himself had quickly shrank down. What can they do to someone like that? If they were to attempt to jump him after the exams outside the academy, they're likely to be at the receiving end of a one-sided beating. "It's all over!" President Mike shouted at the loudspeakers installed in every battle center. Those who didn't gather enough points paled considerably as they fell to their knees and despaired, while those that did get points could only let out a sigh. In the end, the true MVP of the show was Naruto Uzumaki himself. They just watched Naruto walk away, still transformed. They wanted to be angry at him, but they knew that if they decided to retaliate against him aside from the sheer difference in power between them, the staff at UA won't accept it. They were warned beforehand that anti-heroes won't be tolerated, and they'd likely be disqualified completely over it while probably facing actual charges for it, since this is still UA High, the best hero high school in Japan, so they are likely to get into deep trouble. Naruto didn't stick around for Recovery Girl to make it all the way to their own battle center. Instead, he retreated outside. There is no point in staying around and antagonizing the others. Humans are irrational creatures, and some would definitely attack him regardless of the consequences. Not that I blame them, Naruto thought as he left the battle center. He too would be in a terrible mood if he was put in the same battle center as a guy who is overqualified. So at the end, he was actually holding back. I guess this is what they call a cheat-level character. Midnight said in resignation as she watched the whole event unfold. The staff had also realized how emotionally invested they were in Battle Center C compared to the other. He didn't just gain villains points, but also rescue points. Cementos pointed out, and true enough, they all had noticed how Naruto had been helping the examinees avoid being attacked by the lasers of the robots or be taken off guard by the robots. He also volunteered to act as a bait to keep the 0-pointer from bothering the rest of the examinees, and was destroying the rubbles while keeping the robot from hitting any of the building and causing more damage and panic before he finished it off. 120 villain points and 80 rescue points. That makes his total up to 200. He just broke All Might's record. Snipe revealed in disbelief, causing many to be very alarmed as they realized that, true enough, Naruto had broken the record that All Might had held, which was 175 points. Waha! I ended up with a gold mine. Thank you, Aizawa. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have gotten him in my class. Vlad King spoke loudly while laughing as he thanked Aizawa, who gave him a look of pure irritation as Vlad continued to rub it in his face. Whatever. I guess I did come to a quick assumption on him. In the end, he had proved me wrong by breaking that big oaf record. He at least is rational and has a good mindset for a hero. It's a shame he won't be in Class 1A. Aizawa grumbled at the end. I for one am immensely glad that he's actually aiming to be a hero and not a villain. 13 spoke, causing everyone to shudder at the thought of Naruto actually becoming a villain. This would be a nightmare for any hero out on the field, since Naruto would be on the loose and without any restraints. He had already displayed to be extremely proficient in hand-to-hand combat, specifically martial arts. He's familiar with his quirk, being able to use both his fire and wind, as well as combine them together. Not to mention his ability to transform as well. Hound Dog listed the details of what they learned. In conclusion, he could just easily take down an entire city before the heroes could do anything to stop him. And he's still a 16-year-old teen. Ectoplasm concluded everything that was said by his peers. The realization hit those that had never really thought of it this way, and some gulped nervously. They now understood why 𝐤𝐢𝐳 wanted him to join UA and made the first move to send a recommendation letter. It's because 𝐤𝐢𝐳 had known about the potential of Naruto. Kids are becoming increasingly scary each generation. Powerloader spoke with a hint of amazement and resignation, as if he had accepted that every generation becomes crazier and outrageous by the decades. Such a thought was shared by the rest. As you've witnessed, my friends, Mr. Uzumaki's potential is bottomless. He had shown academic intelligence. 𝐤𝐢𝐳 spoke as the screen changed to show the written exam results that had already been graded, which featured a 100, meaning that he was at the top. Battle intelligence, as he used his quirk in ways that only those in the first year had yet to learn, showing that he's advanced in terms of understanding of how his own quirk fully operates. 𝐤𝐢𝐳 had continued explaining as clips of Naruto, using acceleration and wind to propel himself further was replayed. His quirk in itself is versatile, and throughout the next 3 years, we may be able to uncover more regarding the mystery of his powerful quirk. He could as well surpass All Might, 𝐤𝐢𝐳 revealed, shocking everyone present. You think he could even surpass me? All Might asked, clearly feeling mixed emotion in regards to such a statement. While part of him is rather happy that the next generation is strong and are going to inherit the torch, but part of him is feeling worried. Not particularly at Naruto, as he doesn't doubt the boy's integrity and heroic spirit, but if there are people like Naruto out there, then he felt concerned. He just hopes that his successor Izuku Midoriya will be ready for the mantle of being the 9th user of OFA. I don't think I know he could surpass you. I know for a fact that from just that display, Naruto Uzumaki will be a powerhouse. I needed to take precaution as to ensure that the villains would not attempt to seduce him to their side. 𝐤𝐳 expressed his worry. He had done an investigation illegally before he made such a decision. He had learned about Naruto early school life and how there are people who had treated him as an animal for his quirk before he was moved to a private school by his parents who could afford to throw around that kind of money. He learned that Naruto's record was spotless. His quirk had also been what had made him immediately rush to lay his claim on him before anyone else could try to do so. Not only because he feared the villains trying to blackmail the boy into their side, but also the other competitors. Shiketsu would definitely try and get him in their school. The same is also for other hero schools like Ketsubetsu, who will try to use Naruto to jump in the rankings. We will need to revise our plan for this year. Mr. Uzumaki is quite enigmatic, and so I have plans to create joint exercises between both classes in order to strengthen ties. 𝐤𝐳 spoke as he jumped from his seat and started to walk away. Everyone had heard this and were surprised but saw his point. The balance of power between both classes might cause the relationship dynamic to be even more heated. They were rather familiar with how heated the arguments can get between both Class A and Class B. I guess we will be seeing each other far more. 𝐲𝐢𝐽. Vlad spoke as he stood next to the underground hero, who nodded his head, but he certainly did not mind the idea of joint training, as he was already getting fed up with this stupid rivalry between classes. That's assuming that 𝐤𝐢𝐳 doesn't go around expelling his students like last year. Midnight pointed out, while 𝐲𝐽 rolled his eyes at that, but it was nonetheless true. If they have no potential at all for the field of heroics, then they're going to be packing their bags and start looking for a career change. It's cruel to let kids continue dreaming of being something they're not, 𝐲𝐽 said, causing All Might to be alarmed. Young Midoriya is going to be in trouble if he ends up in Class 1A. All Might thought as he was filled with worry over his successor and the boy he had come to develop a strong tie with. He never really had children, but Izuku had ignited such feelings inside him. Isn't this harsh of you, 𝐲𝐽? They're still in their first year. We should give them some slack. All Might encouraged mostly for the sake of Midoriya, but 𝐲𝐽 rolled his eyes as he picked his sleeping bag from the floor and started to leave as well. Give them some slack? 𝐲𝐽 stopped momentarily near the door as he gave a brief glance at the symbol of peace that is reduced to such a pitiful state and shook his head in disgust and disappointment towards the number one for saying something like that. Being a hero is no game. They're here to learn how to be heroes, not fool around and make friends. I will expel anyone with no potential, 𝐲𝐽 coldly answered before he completely left. Don't mind him. 𝐤𝐢𝐳 had always been the rational type of person. He expels anyone he deemed to have zero potential, but this is his way of showing that he does care for others. Midnight spoke gently as she felt the need to justify her friend's action. I understand, even though I do find his methods to be extreme. Toshinori replied as he let out a sigh before he too stood up and decided to leave. He needs to contact Midoriya as soon as possible, or maybe contact someone else to help Midoriya control the quirk. The boy's heroic spirit will be crushed if he is met with Aizawa's cold and indifferent judgment. If Izuku is expelled, the months of hard work will come undone. He knew about how much Izuku struggled with his confidence and the time it took to raise it up. Midnight looked back at the door where Aizawa had left from. She knew that he was still haunted by the death of their old classmate Shirakumo. It is still something that haunts them all, but Aizawa was the most affected by his death than both her and Hisashi. Chapter 3. First day at UA. You don't even need to receive a letter to know that you already passed the exams. Mira pointed out as the rumors of Naruto absolutely dominating the entire battle center had reached both her and Daiwi's ears. The acceptance letter was in Naruto's hands. I think it will be good to know how much one scored both in the entrance and the practical exams. Daiwi chimed in, giving his opinion on the matter as they watched as Naruto ripped open the envelope before a disc rolled on the table and stopped before projecting a recording. I am here as a projection. All Might had shouted through the projection, startling Mira, who let out a scream and nearly raised her Bakken sword to split the entire disc in half, only to be stopped by Daiwi, who let out a sweat drop at this and let out a sigh. What kind of a human being goes around giving people jump scare? That son of a bitch nearly gave me a heart attack. Mira screamed some profanities at the #1 pro hero, but since this is a recording, he would never hear her colorful comments about his methods of introducing himself. So the rumors of All Might being a staff at UA is true. Daiwi said, still holding back his girlfriend. It won't do them any good if she were to destroy the disc, as they have yet to know the results, even though it should be very obvious by now that Naruto passed. You three smile for the camera. Kushina squealed as she and Minato held a camera and recorded everything. She would never let this chance go until she had recorded her son being accepted at UA High, and she knew he did very well from what he told them. Sure, Mom. Naruto smiled back at his mother while he was given a thumbs up from his father, who wore a proud smile, already knowing that his son had done very well. Now, you may be wondering, what am I doing in a recording of your UA acceptance letter? Well, truth be told, you're currently looking at the new UA faculty member. All Might had declared, much to the surprise of just about everyone in the room. That's right, I'm going to be the new heroics teacher this year for both Class 1A and Class 1B. But that's beside the points. All Might said as he let out a cough, and it was obvious that someone had been telling him to start to get to the point. I guess the symbol of peace is as flashy as he appears on the live TV, said Minato with a smile, finding the behavior of the symbol of peace to be rather amusing, and he didn't find any problem with the man. His friendly approach is something that never fails to put a smile on the faces of others. Young Uzumaki, I'd like to express how impressed I am right now. My other colleagues had also expressed the same sentiment. You not only scored 100 on the written exam, but also passed the practical exam with flying colors. All Might said with a smile, but I'm sure you're more curious about how much you scored. So take a look at this, shouted All Might as he pulled a remote and pointed it at a TV behind him, displaying the UA logo. The screen shifted to show the current billboard, showing the current ranking, and Naruto stood at the #1 spot. The villain points showed 120 points, and the rescue points had 80 points in it. A golden crown was next to his own name. Kushina couldn't help but let out a loud cheer at seeing this. That's right, young man. You scored a villain point of 120 points and rescue point of 80 points, making your total reach up to 200 points. But that's not all. As you can see, you not only scored the highest this year, but also broke my record, declared All Might with an even bigger grin. If you were curious, my own entrance exam record was a total of 175 points, and you broke it by a large margin. Truly well done. All Might spoke with a proud look as he clapped his hand to show how impressed he is at the moment. Now, I invite you, young Naruto Uzumaki, to join us this year as a UA student and a hero in training. This is your hero, Academia, All Might said as he raised his hand, as if inviting Naruto, while still wearing his iconic big smile on his face. By the end, the projection light dimmed down before the projection of All Might disappeared. The disc self-destructed on the spot after it fulfilled its purpose of delivering the message of Naruto's acceptance at UA. Yes, Kushina cheered loudly as she pushed the camera into Minato's arm and proceeded to glomp Naruto in her embrace, clearly very happy. Her son had not only scored first, but broke the Symbol of Peace record of 175 points, which showed how amazing her son is. You really are crazy. Breaking the Symbol of Peace record is not something anyone could just do. Now you have a bragging right. Mira joked after having calmed down from the shock of learning that her best friend had broken the #1 pro hero record. Oh boy. If those in the media learned about this, they would have a field day with it. I'd say you should prepare yourself mentally for this. 𝐤𝐢𝐽 said as he shook his head in amusement, while Naruto snorted a little at that as he knew he would be stalked. I hope not. I'd rather not have people stalk me around, said Naruto, with a smile, even though he felt like he should expect that much given that he had chosen that kind of profession where paparazzi are like an epidemic for other celebrities. Congratulations, son. You made us both proud, Minato said, wearing a very big smile, clearly happy and satisfied to see his son being successful and his worth acknowledged by 𝐤𝐢𝐽. Thanks, Dad, Naruto replied, gratefully feeling a sense of fulfillment to see himself achieving #1 while also gaining his parents' praises. Naruto noticed that 𝐤𝐢𝐽 had started to open the letter to see the paper that was neatly tucked inside. Class 1B. 𝐤𝐢𝐽 looked confused when he saw the B instead of the A, since Naruto's score should guarantee him a spot in Class 1A. At least that's what he naturally assumed to be the case, since most schools follow such a system. There is a note here, Mira said with a frown as she picked the note, which seemed to be a letter from the principal of 𝐤𝐽 himself. Everyone gathered, wanting to know why Naruto was putting 1B instead of 1A, as it naturally should be. The letter had naturally included the iconic introduction of the principal of 𝐤𝐽, which is something along the lines of, am I a mouse, a dog, or a bear? All you need to know is that I'm the principal, which made them sweat drop at that. The letter was a congratulatory one in which the principal expressed how he was impressed by the results, before it came down to explaining why he was placed in 1B instead of 1A as most naturally assumed. So it all boils down to the homeroom teacher of 1A being an asshole who just assumed that we are cocky teens with delusion of grandeur and proceeded to throw Naruto into the arms of the Class 1B homeroom teacher. Mira growled, feeling very offended. That bastard, if he was in front of me, I'd break his nose and teeth, Kushina declared. Her violent nature started to surface and her hair started to hover in the air and split into 9 tails that caused the males in the room to gulp, and even Mira shivered involuntarily. Well, in hindsight, I do understand why he had just made such a ridiculous assessment, Minato said with a smile as he raised his hand in a placating manner when his wife's furious gaze turned to him, warning him to watch his next words. You do remember that young man with white hair that tried to save a person but ended up interfering in a hero rescue and causing injuries to both the hero and the civilian? Minato pressed as he spoke, while Kushina froze as she had clearly remembered that incident that made the news. Yes, I do remember that. Kushina spoke as she remembered how cruel the people had been towards the young man. While his action was irresponsible, what happened to that teen was horrible. His home got vandalized by the people. His parents left in debt after having to pay reparation for the victim, who had to recover in the hospital for the next 6 months, and even repartition for obstructing the hero's work who was going to save the victim. It was a reminder of how cruel humans can be towards their own kind. While his action was irresponsible, Kushina truly believed that they had overreacted and ruined a teen's life before he even made it into his adulthood. After having thoroughly thrashed his life, they moved on with their life. This is why she preferred Naruto to be a hero. While corruption is a problem that seems to latch onto the hero system, people forget that throughout the history of their world, every system will eventually be eroded and corrupted by those in power. It's because of this corruption that she had felt that Naruto might be more safe being a hero. Her son was blessed with a powerful quirk, and the letter had more than proven that when he broke All Might's record. Once he finishes his time at 𝐤𝐽, he will graduate as a top-tier hero. His value will skyrocket, and those in power would not be able to easily get rid of him. If they allow someone with a repulsive personality like Endeavor to do whatever he wants, then that means her son will be safe. Not that her son will ever fall to corruption, because she and her husband had made sure to teach him to be better than others. In the end, She is a mother who wants to make sure that her son would live to get married and have his own children. If it means getting him in a system that is guaranteed to give him a good life, then so be it. Besides, not every hero that appears on TV is necessarily bad. This is an opportunity where her son would be able to make more friends with other like-minded individuals and have a massive support group of his own. I can only guess that the 1A homeroom teacher believed that our son and his friends had tried to play a hero by heading to the scene of a crime. If 𝐫𝐞𝐻 had died that day, regardless of the children's intention, they would have faced the full extent of Japan's legal law. Minato explained everything. Naturally, if that were to happen, Minato will immediately take the entire family to another country, since he wouldn't continue staying in a Thai country that is intending to screw with his son's future, and even take out their anger on him and his wife. He'd also take both 𝐤𝐢𝐽 and Mira with him as well, if they chose to move on to another country. Those poor kids wouldn't deserve living in a country full of demons in human skin. The only reason he stayed in Japan is because of patriotism, but other than that, the people in the position of power are pieces of garbage that deserve to be lined up and have their bodies riddled with bullets for all the crimes they had committed. Fine, I understand, but it doesn't mean I necessarily like it. Kushina grumbled her distaste regardless, even if she could now understand the reason, as she looked at the kids who had just finished reading the letter and had understood everything. Not only that, they added that since class rivalry could go beyond what is considered healthy, UA is looking at making joint exercises. That means that every hero-related activity will be jointly done by both classes. Naruto added as he finished reading that part. Not surprising. They want to foster cooperation and goodwill between both classes to avoid this whole "we're the better class" from starting, since it will lead to a war between classes. 𝐤𝐢𝐽 added his input while nodding his own head as if seeing it coming. Overall, Naruto being added to 1B won't affect him in the slightest. Since both classes would be treated equally, this will break down this false notion that one class is better than the other. A month had passed since the acceptance letter. It was now the spring of April, and the new year had started. Naruto currently wore his UA uniform that came shortly after his acceptance letter came in. Kushina was proud enough to start taking pictures to commemorate this massive milestone. After seeing him off, Naruto immediately headed to the train station. Luckily, his home was in a private property in Mizudafu, which is close to UA High, so he only needed to take the train station for a short trip of 5 minutes to fully arrive there. "I look immaculate right now," Mira spoke as she spinned, revealing her rather dashingly pristine UA clothes. Her parents had been equally proud of her, and it seems that their dojo business had improved after the whole villain incident, but it wasn't that much. "I feel like a professional going off to a job interview," 𝐤𝐢𝐽 added, which had earned him a snort from Mira. This is UA High. A job interview would not be a good way to describe how they looked right now. They looked good that they had fell off and out of place. Mom had been sneak attacking me with pictures this entire morning. I felt like she was trying to do some sort of vlogging. Naruto added with a tired sigh, but he was clearly amused. This had earned him a snicker from both his friends, who just patted him in the back. Ani Kushina is a sweetheart if you could actually manage to avoid enraging her. My mom also did the same, but not to the same extent as Ani Kushina. Mira added with a smile, as she loved Kushina, but also found her to be scary at times. "My sister, well, she told me I look wearing the uniform." 𝐤𝐢𝐽 sulked as he remembered his tough sister, just giving him a brief scan on him before she felt the need to violate him early in the morning. Both Mira and Naruto looked at him carefully. "I think you look great, 𝐤𝐢𝐽. She's just jealous of your success, since you're bound to be Mr. Worldwide soon enough," said Naruto with a smile, which had earned him a snicker from Mira, who had nodded her own head as well in full agreement. "You don't look bad," Mira added as she briefly glanced at 𝐤𝐢𝐽 for a little far longer, finding him to be attractive, even though she would never say it out loud because of how embarrassed she is. "Thanks, you too," said 𝐤𝐢𝐽 before he grinned particularly at Mira, as if to say that he had already read her completely, while Naruto had a look of pure amusement upon seeing Mira's face, turned red to match his hair color, and turned away. "Wait up!" 𝐸𝐴's voice came from behind them as they turned towards the orange-haired martial artist. Naruto smiled upon seeing his girlfriend, who had greeted him with a kiss that wasn't out of place for the friends since they are all dating. "𝐸𝐸-chan, you look fabulous. Here's a chef kiss," Mira said as she blew a chef kiss at seeing 𝐸𝐸 look pretty dazzling with her own UA uniform, just like her, of course, before the two girls had shared a hug with each other as they greeted each other. "I think you look pretty cute in your UA clothes." 𝐸𝐸 complimented her best friend as the two girls had a brief talk about their clothes and all the girls' stuff, while both Naruto and 𝐤𝐢, who were sidelined, but they had been used to this happening every now and then. "𝐤𝐢-san, you really look professional in your UA uniform. You should smile more often since you're now a business student at UA." 𝐸𝐸 complimented and gave him some advice, which he flashed a small smile. "I will put that in mind," said 𝐤𝐢 with a smile as Mira came to his side. The two had finally walked inside UA High and are already going to go in different directions, given that their respective courses are situated in different parts of the large UA building. After sharing a "see you later," they both went in different directions. Naruto and 𝐸𝐸 were left together as they walked towards their class. Luckily, the two had asked around for directions, so they already knew where they should be going. "I'm really glad that you're in Class 1B. I was kind of worried that we would be separated by classes, but I guess all went well," said 𝐸𝐸 with a smile as she held onto his arm, feeling more glad, while Naruto smiled at her in a rather affectionate manner. "We're now heroes in training," said Naruto with a smile as the two walked towards the entrance door of 1B, which is pretty much next to that of 1A, but one can hear the obvious chatter inside, which is only natural since everyone is getting familiar with each other. "Pretty huge and flashy," Naruto pointed out as he stared at the large door, while 𝐸𝐸 was also trying to get used to how big some of the doors and buildings are at UA. "I guess it's more fitted for those whose quirk makes them taller," said 𝐸𝐸 as she slid the door open, revealing the inside of the class. Everyone quieted down to stare at the newcomers, but Naruto had involuntarily received more attention, and for a good reason. You're that legendary guy who had broken All Might's record in the practical exams." A blonde narcissist spoke up in a loud manner while giving a condescending laugh. It was hard to tell if the guy was impressed or was just trying to start trouble. "I guess my reputation has catched up to some of you. It's nice to meet you all. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I will be in your care for the next 3 years." He spoke with a friendly smile as he gave a short, polite bow and had made sure to put his S-rank charisma to good use. The previous skepticism that previously permeated the air had vanished as soon enough. A lot of his new classmates started flocking him, heaping a lot of praises for his own achievements, while Naruto had managed to keep up with the questions and answered them. "Dude, you were really manly out there, breaking All Might's record. I guess you steal the attention of the UA staff." Some guy with a steel-hardening quirk had to add a pun at the end. "Thanks. I was really doing my best, but I'm sure you all had done well since you're all here in the hero course, which means your skills had been viewed and acknowledged by the UA staff," said Naruto with a smile as he dodged the praises by being modest about it. "Being modest, aren't we? I don't dislike that about a man." A dark green-haired chick had tried to flirt, but was met with an iron grip from her shoulder, and she turned and was met with the chilling smile of 𝐸𝐸. She immediately realized that the hunk was taken. "I honestly thought you were going to be an asshole about it." "No offense," a guy who looked like a zombie added before he had apologized at the end, but Naruto shook his head, showing that he was not offended by the assessment by his classmates. "It's fine. I'm not offended by this," Naruto replied back with a friendly smile as he showed that he was a good sport about it, which had made everyone like him even more since he wasn't looking down on them and was being a nice guy to be with. This is great news. If we have a guy like that in our class, it will be easy to crush those bastards at Class 1A and show them that Class 1B will be at the top." The blonde narcissist had opened his mouth and shouted, Great! We have a narcissist in the class who is already looking to start a war on the first day of our school," Naruto thought as he briefly watched the guy making what appeared to be an evil laugh. "No wonder UA are trying to encourage both classes to work with each other. Dude, it hasn't been even an hour in our first day, and you're already trying to start a class war. Cool it." Some Ike-man-looking guy with black hair spoke up with an annoyed look, showing that the blonde narcissist had been at this for a while now. "No, you don't understand. Those of Class 1, it must be currently basking in their own glory next door and are actively looking down on us because we're B and they're A. We must step up and crush them," so follow me, my fellow 1B compatriots." The blonde narcissist ranted out, looking on the verge of insanity. It was obvious that the longer the guy is left to rant, the more he looks like he is falling even more to insanity. 𝐸𝐸, seeing this, had proceeded to neck chop him and knock him out, which resulted in the blonde narcissist crumbling to the ground, earning her a cheer from the rest of the class. "Is that guy all right?" He looked like he was on the verge of falling to madness. Naruto said, feeling rather disturbed by this because he had never met a guy so passionate about the whole class rivalry. "He's Monoma. He seems to have a hate boner for Class 1A. By the way, the name is Juzo Hananuki." The zombie man from earlier spoke before he made sure to properly introduce himself to Naruto, realizing that he never did do so earlier. It's quite obvious given how he was acting earlier. "Also, nice to meet you as well, Hananuki-san." Naruto replied somewhat flatly upon seeing Monoma's behavior, but also made sure to give a nice smile towards Juzo, who returned a smile of his own. His soul is tainted with the darkness of the abyss. Some guy with white hair, with a pitch-black skin. Naruto's first impression is that he seems to be more of the type of person who uses tricks and lies to have his way while scheming, but he could guess he is a good guy. The classroom door opened up, revealing a bulky man who happened to be their homeroom teacher, Vlad King. The stern look on his face would have sent shivers down the spine of any lesser man, but Naruto had seen through their teacher's act. Usually those with a stern look are kind-hearted people who try to maintain a level of strictness in their class to lead it along, but also are very understanding and more inclined to help if asked. "I see that all of you are here, so all of you take a seat. We have a lot to talk about." Vlad spoke in a gruff voice as the students proceeded to move around the classroom, taking their respective seats based on the number that is listed in their acceptance letter. The blood hero had moved towards the teacher's podium before he quickly picked the chalk to start writing on the board. Everyone watched as he first wrote his real name followed by his hero name. Once done, he turned to look at the students he was given. "I'm Sekijiro Ken, otherwise known as the Blood Hero Vlad King. I will be your homeroom teacher for the next 3 years at UA, so you should start getting used to addressing me as Ken-sensei." Vlad spoke in a firm tone, seeing that everyone was following him so far. Ken looked at the rest of the class and saw the familiar faces of the students that were in the profile handed to him by Principal Nizu. He had studied them, so he knew each of them by the name and knew about their quirks and what to expect of them based on their middle school teacher's commentary. He was especially pleased to see Naruto among his students. His potential was immense, and Ken felt it would be injustice if the teen was left in the care of the less enthusiastic Aizawa. Not only that, the current batch of students under his care require someone to lead them. Naruto's profile had details on the kind of person the teen is, so he knew that Naruto is going to be a key player in helping every person in the class to be a better version of themselves. First, congratulations are in order to all of you who made it to the hero course of UA. I'm aware that this wasn't any easy for some of you, but all of you are here and now," Vlad said as the corner of his lips raised into a smile, showing how proud he is of them. The entire class were happy to receive such welcome as well as praise from their homeroom teacher, and it helped decrease any worry some of them must have felt when they first saw him. Vlad then leaned on the podium with both his own hands resting on it. "Normally, we should be heading towards the auditorium for the orientation, which is a speech done by our esteemed principal of UA, Nizu, but there has been a change of plans since we're not going to attend it." Ken spoke, and just like he predicted, hands were shot high, and he pointed at one person. "Sir, what are those changes, if I may be bold to ask?" Some chubby teen had asked, looking less confident and more likely to not stand out as much as the others around him. As you may have all noticed by now, Naruto Uzumaki was originally meant to be placed in Class 1A instead of Class 1B, but the homeroom teacher of 1A had relinquished his right, allowing me to have him in our class," said Ken, as he made a motion towards Naruto. "I'm flattered and honored that you've gone to such length to have me in Class 1B. I hope to live up to all of your expectations." Naruto spoke, trying to remain humble since one's first impression tends to be very important since it would stick with them for a long time. "I know that he scored first in the practical exam and broke All Might's record, but is his placement that much of a big deal?" Some mantis-looking guy asked with a hint of arrogance, but he had looked to be far more tamer than someone like 𝐫𝐞𝐽. "It's a big deal for the staff." He had scored 120 villain points and 80 rescue points, making his total up to 200 points. He could have scored more, but he had taken the sideline to give chance to the other examinees after managing to clear 50 of the entire city on his own. Ken explained, this naturally shocked the rest of the class, since while everyone knew that Naruto was that one guy who broke All Might's record, they didn't know how much he scored and how he did. Whoa! What kind of quirk does he have that allowed him to clear half of the city on his own? I seriously pity the ones that had to share the city with him. A brown-haired teen spoke with clear amazement, which was shared by the rest of the class while Naruto felt awkward. Not only that, he could have scored more. I could tell from a glance that it's the product of hard work. Some beast-looking guy spoke, but Naruto could tell that he was a well-mannered person who had been obviously raised in a good household. He's even more amazing. This will make crushing Class 1 even more easier, and soon, we of Class 1B will leave those bunch of idiots to bite the dust. Monoma finally spoke as he let out a laugh while Ken let out a sigh and made a gesture towards the blonde. As you just saw, Principal Nizu is greatly concerned that class rivalry may become even more violent. An alternative had been proposed which had been thoroughly discussed beforehand in a staff meeting. Ken spoke as everyone stole a glance at Monoma, who was knocked out by Kendo. Is it really this bad? Shrum. Some girl with bob-cut hair, covering her eyes, had asked curiously when she heard her sensei's statement, while Ken just nodded his head. That depends on each year, since there are those who seek to start conflicts with their neighboring class. Since Class A always had the elite students of each year, Class B had no way of retaliating and were often sidelined for the most part. Ken explained with a sigh, as this was a problem. Principal Nizu hoped to avoid that route, hence why he added Uzumaki to our class instead of 1A. We will be doing more joint training with 1A unlike all the years before, in order to foster cooperation and goodwill between classes and in order to ensure that class rivalry remains healthy. Ken finished. So to summarize this, the reason why such heavy changes were done is due to one person being added into our class. Some girl with one eye covered by her silver hair had summarized, which earned her a nod from Vlad King, as everyone looked happy by this. Now then, Class 1, a homeroom teacher plans to test his class using the Quirk apprehension test, which some of you should be familiar with since you've done it in your respective middle schools. Ken interrupted once more. A Quirk apprehension test? Does that mean quirks will be permitted? Some vine-haired girl who had her arm intertwined in some prayer spoke, while Ken nodded his head in confirmation, earning excited chatter from the rest of the class, which Ken allowed. Yes, quirks will be allowed since this is a hero school. You're all here to be molded into pro-heroes that will one day protect this country from those who seek to cause harm to it. The test will be to give us a clear image of the limits of your quirks. Ken explained as the rest nodded excited. Usually I don't do this kind of test since you already passed the entrance exam, so doing another exam on the first day may come off as a little bit too much. Still, this needs to be done so we can evaluate your respective quirks and formulate plans on how to train it. Ken continued to explain. Also, since this will be done with Class 1A, this will be a good way to keep you all motivated. Ken finished as he looked at everyone in the class, seeing the fire in their eyes that shows their strong spirit of competing with their own neighboring class. Now then, I want you all to go change into the gym uniform of UA and meet me in the training ground. Vlad said as he raised the very gym uniform of UA that they are supposed to wear. And one by one, everyone started to move towards the changing room. Chapter 4. Quirk Apprehension Test. You've taken quite the sweet time coming here with your class, Ken. Aizawa spoke with tired eyes as he glared lightly at his fellow staff teacher. Ken, who just came alongside the rest of Class 1B, shrugged his shoulders. He was not in the least bit intimidated. We both have our own methods of leading our class. This test is just a way to help my students be aware of what they need to work on so they can succeed as heroes. Competing with their rival class can be the necessary push needed for them to improve. Ken replied flatly. Aizawa looked like he wanted to say more, but had immediately chosen to just keep his mouth shut. UA is known for its freestyle educational system, so that means that every teacher has the right to lead their class however they see fit. No time to waste. Aizawa spoke, grabbing the attention of everyone from both classes. He was not happy in the slightest to see both classes socializing with each other, even though they are supposed to be the next generation of heroes. We will be having a quirk apprehension test, and due to some changes as of late, Class 1B will be taking the test with us. 𝐲𝐢𝐽 continued to speak with a piercing look that made some of both classes shiver. Class 1B felt grateful to have Kin as their homeroom teacher. Yes, sir. What about the orientation or guidance sessions? 𝐤𝐢𝐽 asked in an anxious tone at hearing that they were already doing a test on the first day. Many had also shared the same sentiment. They had all passed the exams to be able to enter here, so why do they have to do another test? No time to waste on that stuff if you want to become heroes. 𝐲𝐻𝐽 replied in a nonchalant manner, showing his true feelings. This startled those of Class 1A instead of 1B, who were already told beforehand. You didn't even take the time to explain to them what the test is about? Kin asked clearly, feeling bothered that 𝐲𝐻𝐽 had yet to even explain anything to his class, while the underground hero let out a huff, but didn't bother to look at the blood hero. I don't want to hear your criticism, Kansas. Maybe if you were rational enough and came on the time we've decided on, we could have already started the test. 𝐲𝐻𝐽 replied flatly, while the aforementioned teacher of 1B didn't look pleased. It may be a test to you, but it's an activity for my students. All of them have rightfully earned their place in the hero course. They deserve to be proud of that and enjoy it before they start getting to the serious stuff. Kin replied back in a harsh tone. Whatever. I will not be having an argument over this. 𝐲𝐻𝐽 said, clearly fed up with all of this. It wouldn't be rational of him to be having an argument with his own co-worker and show such a side of him to his own students whom he is trying to discipline into proper heroes. Wow. They must not really like each other that much if they're arguing over this. 𝐸𝐸 had whispered from next to Naruto, who just shook his own head in clear disagreement. It's more along the lines of disagreement in the method of teaching. Sensei is more of a flexible teacher who can be stern in order to lead the class, but also won't hesitate to change his own style just to help us. Naruto whispered as he simply watched 𝐲𝐻𝐽 explain things to his class. 1A homeroom teacher, on the other hand, is the opposite. You have to change if you want to survive in his class. Things like emotion are irrational to him, and he's more of an autocratic leader. Naruto continued to whisper his opinion on the matter. I'm sure he's not that bad. Yosetsu, who was close, whispered back while Naruto had a look of amusement. Right as Yosetsu said that, 𝐲𝐻𝐽 started to harshly rebuke the country's Department of Education and outright called them out for procrastinating. In hindsight, most of what 𝐲𝐻𝐽 had said held weight to it. The government itself is a gathering of assholes who are looking at stuffing their pockets with more money. Those at the top benefits while those at the bottom are screwed. On second thought, he really has a lot of issues. 𝐤𝐢𝐧𝐝 whispered as well, as he too looked rather unnerved by the haggard look of the homeroom teacher of 1A, and even wondered how someone so depressing was even hired to be around children. 𝐫𝐞𝐻 𝐲𝐻𝐽 had called out, clearly having heard the whispers behind his back, but he didn't outright call them out for it since everything that Naruto had said about him is true, and he was impressed by his analysis. Yes, sir. Naruto stepped out from among the Class 1B. Chatter was heard from among the group of Class 1, since some had clearly recognized him, given the rumors circulating around in regards to what he did at the practical exams of the entrance exam. You've scored first in the practical exam, breaking even All Might's previous record by earning a 120 villain points and 80 rescue points, making your total up to 200 points. 𝐲𝐻𝐽 pointed out mainly to get his students to realize that they're not hot shots, seeing as some had arrogance. While all of them got into UA through the entrance exam beside the two who got in through recommendation, 𝐲𝐻𝐽 believed that the practical exams of UA are irrational since it is more tailored to favor those born with offensive quirks that allow them to destroy the robots. Regardless, 𝐲𝐻𝐽 saw Naruto as a model example of what everyone in both classes should aspire to be. Naruto had shown understanding of his quirk and even shown creativity in its usage. Not only that, he had shown to understand the fundamentals of being a hero. An example would be when Naruto had gone around helping other examinees in his battle center. Most students 𝐲𝐽 had taught throughout his years as a teacher didn't understand those fundamentals and are under the impression that the making of a good hero is one who beats villains only. Heroes are one who also save people as well. This is why there were rescue points but were never mentioned in the handouts, because UA wanted to see who from among the examinees had understood such fundamentals. Naruto understood and earned the highest rescue points. What? Bakugo exploded out as he heard that and looked like he was going to just throw himself and attack Naruto. 𝐤𝐢𝐧𝐝𝐴 expected such reaction from his students, as it's not every day that you get told that a student had broken the symbol of peace record. But 𝐫𝐞𝐦𝐴 was held back by two of his classmates, which happened to be �0 and Kirishima, who had to whisper calming words to dissuade him from just attacking, since if he did, 𝐤𝐴𝐴 would expel the boy on the spot. He didn't need a loose cannon like that in his class. Nonetheless, the rest of Class 1A had reacted as he expected as they looked at the sheepish Naruto with various levels of shock at hearing this. Some, like Todoroki, had an intense look directed at Naruto. Did he really have to do that to me? Thought Naruto with a sigh, since this is the second time this day that a teacher had just proceeded to expose his own achievement in the practical exams, but he understood 𝐤𝐴𝐴's strategy here. Class 1B had a look of pride at seeing the look on 1A's faces. Bet you losers of 1A are so surprised that it's not one of you that has scored first in the exams. It's only the first day, and you're already falling bay. Monoma's rant was cut short when Itsuka knocked him out quickly and looked irritated. Sorry about him. He's been like that since the morning. Please don't mind his words and just ignore it. Itsuka was quick to offer an apology, while everyone's sweat dropped, while 𝐤𝐴𝐴, on the other hand, gave a glare towards Ken as if to tell him to rein his own students. A ball was suddenly tossed to Naruto, who easily caught it as he understood the task and walked inside the circle. 𝐤𝐴𝐴 looked impressed. He had just realized that he had underestimated the teen who had been showing a very humble side to him. Uzumaki, how far could you throw in middle school? Asked 𝐤𝐴𝐴 while Naruto remembered the test he took alongside both Dewi and Mira, as the two of them had started competing heatedly over who could score the highest. 94 meters, sir, answered Naruto, much to the surprise of many, as the throw is very impressive considering that the test had been done without the usage of Quirk, which meant that Naruto's base strength is very high up there. Great. Now try it with your Quirk. Do whatever you need to. Just don't leave the circle, 𝐤𝐴𝐴 instructed as he stepped back. Class 1B proceeded to start cheering for Naruto, which even Ken threw some words of encouragement for his student. Go, Uzumaki. Show those of Class 1A how we do things. Vlad shouted his words of encouragement, which could come off as a provocation to the other students of Class 1A, who looked at him in bewilderment, while 𝐤𝐴𝐴 looked at his coworker with mild annoyance. Seeing this, Naruto felt the need not to disappoint them. A golden glow had surrounded him as it fiercely blew powerful gusts of wind before the light had dimmed down, revealing his humanoid nine-tail transformation, which features only 7 fox tails made of flames. Naruto had proceeded to take a pitcher stance and took a deep breath as he concentrated the flames around the ball, but regulated the temperature so it wouldn't burn it. He then added a layer of wind as well to accelerate it once he threw it in the air. Everyone watched with bated breath, with the sharper ones noticing what he was doing and being extremely impressed. Naruto then proceeded to throw the ball, using his entire body to give it a boost before the ball had then shot in the air like a comet of fire. The flames then shifted to take the shape of a large fox roaring to the sky as it increased in speed. Everyone in UA, or rather everyone in the city, should have witnessed the throw and the large fox made out of his flames, leaving the very planet itself. Thankfully, I've been training my reach with my Quirk, so as long as the fire still burns, I can remotely control it. Naruto thought as he made motions with his fingers, boosting the fire and pushing the ball outside Earth, and it still had continued for a while. Beep, beep, beep. 𝐤𝐴𝐴's device that had been measuring how far the ball had been thrown had started beeping, showing that the ball had stopped. 𝐤𝐴𝐴 was not really surprised that it had stopped, since flames don't burn in space, given the lack of oxygen, which feeds the flame. It's important for us to know our limits. That's the first rational step to figuring out what kind of heroes you'll be, 𝐤𝐴𝐴 said, looking thoroughly impressed as he turned to the rest of both classes to show them the score, which had just revealed a number of 184,400 kilometers. Class 1B. Ken called out to his students as he turned to them. Those of Class 1B, and even some from Class 1A, turned to look at the blood hero who had a big grin on his face. Clearly, he was pleased to see the results. I want you all to strive to do your very best in this exercise. Don't let yourself be discouraged and aspire to do your very best like Uzumaki did. I know you all can do it. Ken shouted his words of encouragement, meant to incite his own students to do their very best. Yes, sir. The rest of Class 1B shouted with looks of pure excitement, having clearly been at awe at Naruto's display of strength, and even felt very proud, as Naruto pretty much represented all of them, and he made such a powerful first impression and a powerful statement. The ball had left the earth. Yaoyorozu pointed out in clear shock and had a confused look. Why was someone like this put in Class 1B instead of Class 1A? It seems her comment had stirred even more conversation among the students who were impressed. Chatter started to take place while Class 1B felt more proud as they cheered for one of their own. Monoma almost started to brag and antagonize Class 1A, but a grip on his shoulder from Ōtsuka told him that if he tried to start anything, he would be knocked out once more by Ōtsuka, who was less than amused. Impossible. How is he this strong? This was supposed to be the start of my legend where I surpass All Might and put those extras in their place. Bakugo screamed in his head, clearly unable to accept the fact that some B-class loser is better than him. Not only was he denied the first place in the practical exam, having assumed that he was naturally the first in the ranking since he didn't bother much with the recording sent to him aside from just listening to the fact that he passed to stroke his own ego. He also knew that his explosion quirk is not powerful enough to send the ball outside the planet and possibly close to the moon. He looked at Naruto with burning anger as he clenched his fist hard. This was the fourth time that the redhead had humiliated him. He didn't like this. Something isn't right. He was not going to stand for this. He will become strong, and when that time comes, he will thoroughly thrash the smug redhead and show him that he is that guy. I overlooked them. It seems there is one who is worth defeating in order to prove that I don't need this man's quirk. Todoroki brooded in his head as he looked at Naruto with a desire to defeat him. What better person to test his ice quirk on than the person who uses flames? Naruto walked towards his own classmates, not bothering to return back to his normal form. He had unfortunately gotten many blushes from almost all of his female classmates. Given the form he was taking enhanced his good looks, and Ōtsuka looked surprisingly unbothered by it. Drip, drip. To the shock of everyone in both classes, raindrops started to fall on everyone before it had started to rain. Naruto's earlier throw had done more than what people expected. The clouds had been heated and caused it to start releasing rain on the entire city of Mizutofu. Holy, what a flex! Kaminari shouted his own thoughts as everyone was stunned to see that someone had caused rain, especially since the only one who had shown such a level of power was All Might himself. So seeing it in person only further cemented Naruto's position. His power is as deep as the abyss. What a terrifying power! Tokoyami said in astonishment, but he felt some form of connection to Naruto, as if their powers share some similarity to each other, but he couldn't place his finger on it, so he decided to think of it later. This is insane. I knew Uzumaki is strong, but not that strong. Izuku's thoughts were raging over the turn of events. He was already surprised that someone had managed to beat his idol's record, but seeing it in person, Izuku felt that Naruto was what people would refer to as a cheat character. Whoa, this is awesome, Mina shouted, unable to contain her excitement, as despite the seemingly unfair power that Naruto had just displayed earlier, she was bubbling with excitement since it meant she could use her quirks freely without the stupid law breathing down her neck. So, we can use our quirks for real. Man, the hero course is great. Shiro had spoken loudly, showing how passionate he is right now, as he looked pumped to use his quirk and show off, albeit he doubted anybody could match Naruto's level of power. Awesome, you say? Aizawa spoke, having gotten over his momentary shock over the whole rain, as he knew it would be temporary before it clears away. You're hoping to become heroes after 3 years here, and you think it'll be all fun and games? Aizawa spoke as he loomed over his own class. He knew that he can't apply whatever he's going to say to Kan's class because they're not his class, but Class 1A is his to do whatever he wants. Class 1A and Class 1B stopped and looked at Aizawa, and some had started to feel a shiver down their spine as the longer Aizawa continued to speak. The more they felt a chill go down their spine as they saw the corner of his lips just stretch into an ominous smile. Right? The one with the lowest score across all 8 events will be judged hopeless and will be expelled. Aizawa revealed with a malicious smile on his face that looked so out of place on what is supposed to be a hero, which caused both classes to scream in shock. Your fates are now in our hands. Welcome. This is the hero course at UA High. Aizawa declared ominously as he raised his hair upward to reveal his bloodshot eyes and had an ominous smile. What? Both classes shouted in shock, as Class 1A looked frightened by the revelation, except very few who weren't really worried about their placement in the test. In regards to Class 1B, some of them had quickly turned to their own homeroom teacher for further inquiry. "Vlad-sensei, does this apply to us as well?" Shota asked, gulping with clear nervousness that was shared among some of the students of Class 1B who weren't confident in their placement in the test, especially when you're out there competing with the likes of Naruto. "No, Aizawa is the homeroom teacher of 1A, which means he has no authority over any of you in Class 1B. Ken was quick to reassure his anxious students and frowned at Aizawa for giving such a scare to his students, but Aizawa was unremorseful. As I previously explained back in the class, this is more of an exercise that is meant to help you guys get a better grasp of your quirks, and it will also help me understand what needs to be worked on for your future quirk training." Ken continued to remind them of his earlier words. "Since this will be recorded in your students' file, this would be a good way for you guys to keep track of your own progress so far, since we will be redoing this test in the midterms." Ken finished explaining things to 1B while 1A had listened and felt upset. "How is this fair?" 𝐤𝐢𝐳𝐴 was the first to shout from among the students at 1A. 𝐤𝐢𝐳𝐴 started to question if her own placement in 1A is something to be proud of if her homeroom teacher is this cruel. 𝐤𝐢𝐴 knew how much her family struggled to get her into UA. Her family's construction was doing poorly, which meant that they were struggling to even pay the rent for the flat that she was living in. If she were to be expelled on her first day, she didn't know if she could continue living with herself. Most from Class 1A wondered if transfer to 1B could be possible. None were comfortable with having a homeroom teacher who was showing no remorse to toying with their very future. Expulsion from UA was the equivalent of a death sentence, because this will be a mark on their files. "Sir, I do not mean to question your authority in leading our class, but isn't this far excessive for our first day at UA High?" Ida had asked as he adjusted his glasses while being careful not to offend their homeroom teacher, who seems to be the type to get trigger-happy when it comes to expulsion. "Yeah, we passed the entrance exams, didn't we? Why do we need to put our necks on the line on our first day? Class 1B are the same as us, but yet their own homeroom teacher isn't trying to expel them?" Mina asked loudly as well, looking equally panicked as everyone in the class. Some from Class 1A had started to quickly chime in to give their own input at the tyrannical homeroom teacher, who didn't seem to bat a single eye at them as he let them continue. "Are you all done wasting time throwing your temper tantrums?" Aizawa asked calmly, looking very unfazed by everything that was said, and he clearly wasn't even planning to show a twinge of sympathy for any of them, even if they tried to question him. What Ken does with his students is of no concern to me. If he wants to take them for a walk in the park, that's his decision. I, on the other hand, get to have a say on your fates. If I say pack your bags, it means that you don't have what it takes to be a hero and therefore expelled." Aizawa spoke harshly. The students of Class 1A were all stunned at how heartless their homeroom teacher is and saw the pitying gaze sent to them by Vlad King. Class 1B were counting their lucky stars for ending with Vlad King as their homeroom teacher rather than someone like Aizawa. "You want to talk to me about fairness? Then why are you all here in the hero course? As future heroes, assuming that none of you ever got booted out by me, you're all expected to face all manners of situation that will be downright unfair." Aizawa's voice seems to increase in volume. "Natural disasters, highway pileups, rampaging villains. Calamity is always right around the corner. I'd say Japan is full of unfair things. Heroes are the one who correct all that unfairness." Aizawa harshly chastised them. "If you were hoping to spend your evenings hanging out at McDonald's, I'm sorry to tell you that for the next 3 years here, UA will run you through the ringer. That's plus ultra. Use your strength to overcome it all. So bring it." Aizawa finished as he made a motion with his finger. Class 1A had deflated. There is nothing they can do about it other than to make sure that they never end up in the last place in the ranking. Most were having a panic attack, as they knew that the test would be unfair for most of them, given that their quirks are not suited for such physical exercises. "We are lucky to have Ken-sensei as our homeroom teacher." Rin had broken the silence for Class 1B. The rest of the class had nodded their heads in clear agreement with the guy who had looked like he was from a Chinese descent as they saw the despairing looks on the 1A students. Would he really expel the one who had come in last? Reiko questioned if a teacher at UA could do something like that. She would imagine that Nizu, the principal, would first have to give the final confirmation to expel a student from a class. It would be irrational. He's likely using intimidating tactic to get the rest of the class to treat this test seriously, since most likely there will be those who will be treating it as a game. Naruto spoke in a low voice. Sounds logical. I for one prefer Sir Kan as our homeroom teacher. I find his methods to be excessive regardless of his good intentions. Jiroda spoke in a hushed voice as well to avoid being heard. The beast man felt his behavior to be shameful given that he is speaking behind the teacher's back. But I don't really sense any lie from his statement. He'd likely expel the last to score in the test. If I had to guess, the one who would get booted out will be the one who is performing poorly overall, or the one whose potential is deemed to be zero in his eyes. Naruto finished explaining his opinion. Yikes! I'm starting to feel bad for those of Class 1A since they don't have such an awesome teacher like our Kan-sensei. Setsuna spoke, albeit a little louder than she intended, which earned her a brief sharp look from Aizawa, making her shiver. Lower your voice. Do you want to get us killed? 𝐤𝐲𝐽 hissed as he saw the look that Aizawa had briefly given before he ignored them as the test was now going to start. 𝐤𝐲𝐽 didn't want to see what Aizawa could do if he decided to try and get them punished. Shiozaki had started to pray to God to help those of Class 1A whose fate are decided by their homeroom teacher. Some looked at the religious women, but chose to ignore her for now. In order for the test to go rationally fast in Aizawa's eyes, both him and Kan had discussed the appropriate way to go about it. For the 50-meter dash, 2 students of Class 1A and 2 students of Class 1B were paired to race, and it was measured by an AI device robot. 1 second. The robot had declared as such, with Naruto having just flashed through the 50-meter dash in a second. Despite the surprise he had received from some, it had only confirmed the rumors of how he had cleared 25 of the city on his own in a minute. 2.85 seconds. The robot had once more announced as Naruto had looked mildly surprised to see Izuku Midoriya blitzing through the 50-meter dash, and he could even see that Aizawa was surprised, having never expected it. What stood out was the green, energy-like electricity dancing around him. So he learned how to control that self-destructive quirk. Naruto mused. He didn't know much about Izuku's quirk aside from the fact that it destroyed his arm and his 2 legs during the practical exam when he jumped in an attempt to destroy the zero-pointer and save this 𝐤𝐢𝐼𝐴 girl. Bakugo, on the other hand, who came at 4.13 seconds, was seething in rage as he clenched his fist in anger. It was a 2-second difference, but Bakugo could not accept it. He looked ready to run and attack Izuku, but a hand had shot to grab his shoulder harshly. Rein in your temper, boy. This is UA High, not whatever backwater middle school you previously were in. Kan spoke gruffly as he met Bakugo's red eyes with a piercing glare of his own that had warned him of what would happen if he went through attacking another student. Just because you have a good quirk does not mean you're not liable for an expulsion for misconduct. Kan spoke very harshly, reminding Bakugo of the consequences that came with attacking a student. Bakugo clicked his tongue as he saw Aizawa glare as well on him before he left. You've finally learned how to control that quirk of yours, Aizawa pointed out as he turned to look at the green-haired teen who had recklessly challenged the zero-pointer with an unstable quirk. He at least commends him for having taken charge in controlling the quirk. Why yes, sir. I've had a relative of mine help me. Izuku said, only revealing half the truth and not revealing his relation to the symbol of peace or the fact that he got All Might's Minor Grand Torino to supervise his training. That's good. If you hadn't shown any improvement by the end of this test, I'd have expelled you on the spot, but I guess there is still hope in you, so do your best. Aizawa spoke as he gave a nod of acknowledgement, while Izuku felt a shiver at the implication of the expulsion, but felt grateful. Yes, sir, Izuku said in an enthusiastic tone, feeling very relieved to hear the acknowledgement, and he wasn't the only one since on the far corner behind the gym building, All Might was hiding away while sighing in relief, as well as he saw Aizawa give a pass to Izuku. It was worth it having to endure the few minutes of call with Grand Torino, All Might said in relief while being glad that he swallowed his pride and fears and contacted his old master to help his successor, even though he got an earful for the way he trained Izuku. Midoriya-kun, it seems you've managed to outspeed me. I see that my own assessment of you is not wrong. You clearly are the superior," said Ida with a bitter look for not being able to be fast enough, since he is supposed to be the little brother of Ingenium. "There is no need for that, Ida-kun. Besides, there was Uzumaki-kun who was faster than me." Izuku pointed out to the redhead, or rather the transformed white-haired golden-eared fox student. "Ah yes, I'm surprised that someone of his talent and skills was placed in 1B, said Ida as he looked at Naruto from far away. The redhead had surprised him immensely, and it made him question what UA is trying to achieve from all of this. It could be that UA is looking at fostering unity between both our classes and had intentionally displaced him in 1B in order to prevent bitter class rivalry from forming. Izuku spoke as he raised a finger, albeit he had heard that from All Might who told him about Naruto. That's correct. As expected of the most prestigious hero school, it's truly an honor to be a student of UA High. Ida spoke in a stiff manner that made both Izuku and Uraraka sweat drop at his behavior. Naruto obviously heard their conversation and shook his head in amusement. Chapter 5: Expulsion. The rest of the Quirk apprehension test had gone without any hitch. Naruto had dominated the test for most of them since there were people with quirks that were far more versatile like Yaoyoro's creation quirk and someone like Monoma with his copy quirk. Nonetheless, Naruto had undoubtedly not only been physically strong from all the physical conditioning and martial arts training since a very young age, but with his quirk boosting all his stats, he was able to dominate a large majority of the exercises with ease. Moving along, time for the results. I will be displaying the results of Class 1A, while Kim will be displaying his class results. Aizawa spoke tiredly as he and Ken stood side by side, while having the same device out before it projected a hologram of the results for both classes. Class 1A, 1 Momo Yaoyorozu, 2 Shoto Todoroki, 3 Katsuki Bakugo, 4 Izuku Midoriya. Class 1B, 1 Naruto Uzumaki, 2 Nito Monoma, 3 Itsuka Kendo, 4 Jurota Shishida. So Uzumaki came first. Fuck! Kamakiri shouted as he saw Naruto standing at the very top of the ranking. The green-haired mantis had hoped that one of their classmates would dethrone the redhead on the first day, but contrary to his hopes, Naruto was one. He had bet on Monoma to do the job since he had heard about the blonde copy quirk, which he believed is versatile enough to allow him to rank first, but to his disappointment, the blonde narcissist had only stopped at 2. Kamakiri let out a sigh as he saw his ranking. Why are you surprised? We're talking about the same guy who had broken All Might's record. It was bound for him to be far ahead compared to all of us, Sun said as he was clearly not upset with his ranking in the test since he did well in the exercise. I was betting on Monoma to come first. That bastard's quirk is suited for this exercise. Kamakiri rudely insulted Monoma, the latter whose eye twitched as a result, but made a condescending laugh to irritate Kamakiri. I do agree with you that his copy quirk was suited for this exercise, but he will need to know what quirk to copy for each exercise. Shota said as he looked at his ranking, which is decent, something that didn't really upset him as much as some of his classmates. Logically speaking, Monoma quirk allows him to copy quirks, but even that wouldn't grant him the ability to copy other techniques like Uzumaki ball throw from the start. Shota said as he then looked at Kamakiri who huffed, but had conceded and accepted his point. You lot wouldn't see it like I do. Tetsu spoke with a very huge grin while brimming with energy and excitement. He wasn't upset to see that Naruto had made it first since he was satisfied with his top 5 ranking in the quirk exercise, but this was due to his quirk being tailored for the exercise. Who do tell us, Iron Man? Setsuna asked with a grin which earned her an eyebrow raise at how she had just referred to Tetsu, while the latter had scoffed, not minding the nickname, and proceeded to explain what he saw. Look at him, the guy is buff. He must have been training every day. This kind of physique doesn't come easily for anyone. What a man! He definitely earned his spot. I really want to train with him. Tetsu spoke in a boisterous voice as he let out a laugh and felt the urge to befriend Naruto. You're not wrong about that. He's definitely quite beefy if you catch my drift, said Setsuna as she laughed when she felt the chilling smile of Itsuko on her, as while she decided to back off. It didn't mean that she wasn't going to milk this for as long as she can. Setsuna-san, you need God in your life. Get those sinful thoughts out of your head. We should not loot at our own classmates, said Shiozaki, admonishing the lizard quirk girl who just scoffed at the words of the religious girl. While she respects Shiizaki's devotion to her religion, she isn't going to listen. Faye. I ended up in 2, but I guess I should not expect any less from the main character of this show. Monoma spoke as he looked pleased at his ranking while being surprisingly accepting of the fact he had lost to Naruto despite his versatile quirk. You're surprisingly very accepting of this. I was imagining that you'd lose your marbles over this. 𝐫𝐸𝐴 pointed out with a grin, while Monoma shook his own head, followed by shrugging his shoulder, as if to say that it couldn't be helped that he came second. Why would I? After all, Uzumaki-san is a fellow classmate, so I do not envy him. Rather, my heart is filled with immense joy as I see that he remains the undisputed champion that he is. He will be instrumental in taking down those 1A fodders. Monoma said his intention was quite clear for everyone. So, as long as they're from our class, you're fine with it. Yui spoke in a low voice, surprising many. The class Kaderi rarely talked and seemed to have made friends with Reiko, given their quiet disposition. So for her to speak is surprising. You can speak. Pony spoke in fluent English, unlike the cringy English of present Mike, and luckily everyone had understood her quite well, but she will need to learn Japanese. Yui can speak. She's just a Kadir, meaning the type who rarely speaks. You will get used to it eventually, said Reiko, which made Pony tilt her head to the side as she understood a little of what was said, but she is still in the process of learning Japanese. She means that Kodai-san is not one who expresses herself as much. She can talk, but she mostly prefers to keep to herself. Naruto interjected as he explained things for the American transfer girl using fluent English which his father had taught him. Wow, are you really Japanese? Your English is like very super fluent. Pony said, clearly surprised to meet someone without a broken English accent, or someone like present Mike, who makes you want to just rip off your ears and throw it away from how unbearable it is to listen to his cringy English. I'm 100 Japanese. My father taught me, believing it to be a valuable skill to learn in order to communicate with others, especially in case we have decided to leave to the United States for any reason. Naruto replied back with a friendly smile. Marvelous. I see that Sir Uzumaki has been raised in a high-class household. Shishida spoke as he clapped his hand, clearly impressed and in awe to see that Naruto's prowess extended to his intellect as well. His flexing should be considered illegal. But no matter, that trickster fox will one day fall to my scheming. Shirhai said something ominous, but nobody paid him much attention since he looked shady as it is, so they imagined that it was just his default character. Can you help me with my Japanese? I'd like to be able to communicate with my Japanese friends. Pony said with hopeful-looking eyes while Itsuka had decided to interject in the conversation. Not that she's jealous since she already knew Naruto's character. The only thing that may annoy Itsuka the most would be people like Setsuna who would intentionally try to flirt with her man. Then again, she was already aware of the fact that Naruto is a handsome man, and it was bound that the girls would find him attractive and appealing. I'm sure we can arrange a 2-on-1 session where we can help you learn how to speak Japanese. It won't be as easy as English, but I'm sure we can find a way around it. Itsuka spoke while not as fluently as Naruto, but good enough if she was to be compared to others. Thank you very much. I will be under your care, Pony said as she had thanked the 2 helpful classmates, which earned her a smile from Itsuka and Naruto, who were glad to offer their help. Deku-kun, you were amazing. You managed to score 4th in the ranking. Uraraka praised the freckled green-haired teen who awkwardly scratched his cheeks, not expecting to make it to the top 5, even though he had only started to learn how to control his quirk. I'm behind Kakin, Izuka thought, clearly not displeased by the result of the test. In the past, he wouldn't have been able to stand on the same ground as his childhood friend. He could feel the burning gaze of Bakugo on him, and he knew he must be burning in rage from the inside. Even then, Izuku intended to not stay forever behind his childhood friend. He is the successor to the greatest hero of Japan, a hero who is beloved in other countries. As the inheritor to the OFA, which is the crystallization of 9 wills, he needs to be better. It's not only Kakin that I need to surpass, but also Uzumaki-kun. Even All Might said it, Izuka thought as he remembered when he met All Might at the beach after he managed to free time to see him. Young Midoriya, the next 3 years at UA will be a very tough journey for you. In order to one day be in full command of OFA and truly surpass me, as I can't always be there forever. All Might's voice resonated in Izuku's head. Even then, this generation is shaping up to be far more powerful than the countless generations that preceded it. Young Uzumaki will prove to be an up-and-coming rising star. He will be a rival to you who will push you to your limits. All Might's voice continued. So do not grow complacent in your training just because you're my successor and the inheritor to OFA. I'm afraid that people like young Uzumaki will be growing stronger by the day, and if you don't catch up, you will fall behind. All Might's voice resounded louder. I will, All Might. Izuku thought in his head, determined to give it his all. All Might had truly believed that Naruto would be his greatest challenge so far. His power was even praised by All Might, who believed that Naruto would be the one to surpass him, the symbol of peace. Are you unsatisfied with your ranking? Ida asked curiously as he adjusted his glasses as he saw that Midoriya was in his thoughts and imagined that the boy might not be happy with it like most others, but he received a shake of the head. Not that, Ida-kun. I'm just thinking that I'm surrounded by a lot of amazing classmates, and I'm inspired to work hard to truly master this power, said Izuku sincerely while Ida smiled widely. Truly a wonderful mindset to have. I for one am going to work even harder to become a hero who can answer the cries of help by using my speed to reach them. Ida said with conviction as he looked at his calves that had his engine Quirk as he received claps from both Midoriya and Uraraka. Gah, I'm last. What will happen to me? Am I going to be expelled? No. This is supposed to be the turning point in my life. I was supposed to graduate from here and become a pro hero so that the hot babes can flock around me and create my own harem. Mineta cried out with tears in his eyes and snot. The look he received from the girls in the class wasn't favorable, as they were grateful that the midget was going to receive the boot from UA. Some of the boys looked at him with disgust at hearing his actual plan. Aizawa had walked in alongside Ken, having finished their discussion. Minoru Mineta, Aizawa spoke. His voice was less than friendly, and his gaze bore down on the short teen who had no heroic quality or any redeeming trait. It was clear that Mineta was trembling in fear while the girls were looking at this with hidden glee. Originally, I was planning on letting you guys pass because you all showed some form of potential, but I've changed my mind. Aizawa spoke as he had shocked the student that he actually planned to pass them. UA doesn't need a student who is a walking sexual harassment lawsuit. You're to pack your bags and see to vacating the premises of UA. I will be filing your expulsion papers and sending them to Principal Nizu. Aizawa's voice was devoid of any emotion. Instead, it was only cold. Everyone was shocked regardless if the midget did deserve it. The expulsion was a reminder that Aizawa could actually do something like that. Yaozu looked shocked as well to see that her assessment of this being wrong and that her homeroom teacher is capable of such authority. But sensei. Mineta tried to plead for mercy. His face was pale and he looked like he was going to die from a heart attack. But the unforgiving cold look on Aizawa's face told him that no amount of groveling or begging would ever change this. I've heard complaints from the female students about your behavior earlier. You not only breached their very privacy, an offense that will get you jailed for sexual harassment, but you also made several inappropriate comments which had made your female classmates uncomfortable. Aizawa harshly spoke. Mineta paled as he glanced at his female classmates, or rather his now former classmates who ratted him out to the teacher. The look on their faces showed that they were happy for his expulsion. I've been keeping track even if you think you were very sneaky. I had planned to let you off with a warning to correct your behavior, but it seems that there is no need for mercy. You're no hero. You have zero potential and your behavior is unacceptable at UA High. Aizawa's voice was firm, cold, and calculating. Ken, while he would have wanted to say something, he believed that Aizawa had said everything and more. Mineta looked defeated. For the very first time, he was facing the consequences of his actions. His own middle school usually ignored what he did because he stuffed money where their mouths were. It was why he was so used to speaking his mind without any filter to his words, because coming from a well-off background, he could just throw money to just solve all his problems. Hell, he had more than a few times paid some girls in his old school who were struggling financially to give him panty shots. Yet this is UA High, a prestigious hero school who throws money around on those fake cities. To them, money is not something they were struggling with. Even if he did try to bribe them, he doubts that UA High will just throw away their dignity and pride as a hero school that produced the creme de la creme. He was finished. His parents will probably wonder why he was expelled, and once they learn what he had been doing over the years with their money, well, he is probably looking at a bleak future with no hope. Mayonetta walked away. His shoulder was dropped, showing how defeated he felt at the moment. This will be left as a permanent mark on his record. Even if he tried at a different school, they're likely to spit on his face because his worth had been sucked dry by UA. Anyone who gets kicked out of UA is generally viewed by the rest of society as a failure who couldn't make the cut in the best school. Of course, he could easily switch to the general studies at UA, but would they really allow him such a chance? This is my fault. Me and my big mouth. If I just kept my comments to myself for a few more seconds, I could have passed and remained a student at UA. Mayonetta cried on the inside. He then shifted to blaming his parents since they knew about his nature, but didn't do anything about it. As Mayonetta disappeared from everyone's sight, many had felt mixed emotions in regards to his expulsion. Some had shown clear joy at seeing the boy be expelled, but held themselves from loudly expressing them in fear that 𝐲𝐢𝐽 would shift his attention on them and expel them as well. Some, on the other hand, felt sympathy for Mayonetta. Regardless of his unsavory personality, everybody knew the weight of being expelled from UA. It was not a pleasant thing to have hanging above your head. Anyways, we're done here. Your documents about the curriculum and such are back in the classroom. Give them a look. 𝐤𝐢𝐽 spoke, directing his own speech to Class 1A before he turned around ready to leave since he wanted to quickly submit Mayonetta's expulsion and get it over with. As for Class 1B, return to your classroom, and I will be there shortly with you to explain things to you and answer any questions you may have in regards to the aforementioned documents. Ken spoke in a calming tone, knowing that most of his students were probably shaken at seeing the expulsion. With a silent nod, everyone started to leave the ground and return to their own classrooms. Whispers were shared among both classes in regards to the very recent development with Mayonetta being expelled and the implication of having a missing spot in 1A. I honestly didn't see that coming. 𝐤𝐢𝐧𝐝 spoke as he stuck close to Naruto, whom he vibed with. Tetsu also stuck close on Naruto's other side, which Naruto didn't really mind. Yeah man, seeing someone get expelled on the first day is scary. Tetsu spoke as he glanced back to see 𝐤𝐲𝐽 walking away without a single ounce of emotion on his face, clearly showing that this was not a new thing for him, while Naruto nodded his head. 𝐤𝐢𝐴. Rumor has it that he expelled an entire class last year. What he did today was pretty tame, all things considered, but we should be glad that we ended with Ken-sensei. Naruto expressed his relief since he didn't do well with those kinds of teachers. While he can do well under pressure, given how he was raised to be strong both mentally and physically, he still didn't enjoy those types of teachers who aren't willing to listen to others' opinions other than their own. For real. Yosetsu threw himself in the conversation, clearly startled by the revelation, while those that were throwing their ears at their conversation had pale faces, as well, showing that they were frightened, but also glad that they were with Ken instead. Those are the words that I've heard from some of my old classmates who made it to UA. According to them, 𝐤𝐲𝐽-sensei has a high standard for his students. Those who fall behind, they will receive the boot. Naruto answered, which sent chills down their spine. Whoa man, I didn't know that. We seriously dodged one hell of a bullet right there. Kirishima spoke, having heard the conversation, as he is followed by Mina, who looked like she is bound to vibe with Setsuna given how similar they are. I'd say you of 1A should not relax around that guy. While that kid from earlier did deserve to get the boot, it also means that his authority is genuine, and he could expel you all on a whim. 𝐤𝐢𝐧𝐝 spoke, giving advice for Class 1A who are unlucky to end up with 𝐤𝐲𝐽 as their homeroom teacher. Can't we see if we can switch homeroom teachers? I don't think I can even sleep at night with a teacher like that. Mina spoke in obvious frustration at her predicament. It felt like being placed at 1A is no longer a blessing, but rather a curse. I don't think we can survive for that long with someone who has little regard to our future. I only made it because Mayonetta had just come in last, but it was a close call. 𝐫𝐞𝐪𝐮 chimed into the conversation. Despite her invisibility, her shoulder had been shaking, clearly terrified of the close call. That will be very tricky. You need to actually convince Principal Nizu to take your words into consideration, and even then, there's a likely chance you'd be told to just bear with it, because there might not be anyone who can act as a replacement. Itsuka spoke sympathetically. The conversation between both classes had continued. Monoma, who tried to sabotage it, was met with a neck chop that had proceeded to lay him flat on the ground before he got picked up by his cohorts. So what's your training regimen? Tetsu asked excitedly, having been clearly holding it in for a while until their first day at UA ended. Class 1B had chosen to remain in the class after their homeroom teacher had left for the day in order to communicate. After the event of the Quirk test that had ended with the expulsion of Mineta from Class 1A, they all managed to change to their UA uniform before they returned to their classroom. There, they managed to get all the files that their sensei had talked about. At the start, they were encouraged by Kan-sensei to read it thoroughly before he had gone on to explain things from the start to the finish. Afterwards, can reserve the last few minutes before the bell in order to answer any more of the questions regarding their new life at UA High. After the bell had rang, everyone had something of a silent agreement to still remain in the classroom in order to properly be introduced to each other, since they didn't have such luxury at the start. But with them surviving their first day without any problem, they decided to finally talk. While they had previously only had vague knowledge of each other, they had managed to introduce each other by names, and even numbers had also been shared among the class. Setsuno was quick to arrange creating a group chat for them to communicate. Naruto found himself at the center of attention from many of his classmates as he got people asking him questions. He had managed to answer them, and he managed to make a good impression on the rest of them, especially those with screw looses like Monoma. Naruto had already formed his group of friends from among the class, such as Juzo Hananuki, Yosetsu Aways, Tetsu. There were of course other people who got along with him as well, but were either not the talkative types or they were too competitive. My training regimen? Well, I used weighted clothes. Here, look, Naruto said as he lifted the sleeve of his UA uniform to show the actual weight attached to all of his limbs at the moment, and there was one that occupied most part of his chest. Given that they were in the closed-off classroom of Class 1B, his voice was heard by the rest of his classmates, who stopped what they were doing and saw with surprise the actual weights, while Itsuka had an amused smile. Whoa, is that for real? Tetsu spoke with an obvious surprise as Naruto had proceeded to undo some of the weights and allowed the Iron Quirk user to get a feel of the weight along with his two other new friends, who looked rather stunned by such ridiculous training. I have 5 of them, for on all of my limbs, and one is a vest underneath my UA shirt. Naruto revealed, further undoing some of the buttons of the shirt to reveal a black vest that some like Tetsu had seen in those training video montages. You're seriously on another level, dude. Juzo said, clearly at awe, as he made a hand curl with the weight, and he had felt it was heavy, but doable since he is aspiring to be a hero. He had at least some level of training. He was also one of the students that joined through recommendation. Yeah, no wonder he came first. It wasn't just his quirk that had carried him, but rather the body conditioning he had undergone over the years. Yosetsu agreed, as he could already make an estimation of how much each of those weights. Not to be critical, Uzumaki-san, but aren't you feeling uncomfortable from having those waiting on you all day? Shota asked. In hindsight, the chubby teen knew he wasn't in a position to talk. As he looked down on himself, he pinched some of the fat in his stomach. He wasn't exactly a model of fitness, but Shota felt that having such weights on one person might be more of a hindrance in your everyday life. As a result, he couldn't help but ask, isn't this what training is all about? Training is meant to be uncomfortable and painful, but we do it so we could enjoy the benefits that come with it. There is no shortcut to becoming strong. Naruto answered bluntly. He wasn't going to say any comforting words. If you want something, make sure to grasp it with your own hands and make it yours. This is what I was taught growing up, Naruto said, as he clearly still remembered his father's words when he had told him to not always expect any handouts. Since I want to be strong to become a hero, I decided that every moment will be dedicated to that goal. Every moment is spent training to sharpen both my mind and body. Naruto had continued as he clenched his fist while everyone listened to him with bated breath. Mentality is also important. Are you content with where you are? Or do you feel like you could do better? Are you content with being average? Or do you feel like you could be standing at the top? Naruto kept talking. Everyone heard and felt at awe. A fire was burning inside each of them as he spoke. After all, The one who was speaking such inspirational words was the very same person who had just scored first in the practical exam, beating All Might's record, and even came first in the quirk test. Most of them had assumed that Naruto had only come first because he had a good quirk, and while it was true to some degree that his quirk did carry him for the most part, but they realized that he trained himself to achieve that kind of level. This is so manly. I can't help but cry. Tetsu cried out with manly tears as some sweat dropped at the passionate man's behavior. Nonetheless, many of them were touched by the words more, so the boys who clenched their fist, as if to say, what a man. That feels kind of cringy. I've never gone around giving such speeches before. Naruto laughed it off as he rubbed the back of his head, as he felt a tinge of embarrassment at having said those words, but he received a shake of heads. Nah, man, I think many of us really needed to hear these words. We're now UA students of the hero course. We need to seriously pull our own weights to be good heroes. 𝐤𝐲 spoke with a grin. Not bad pep talk. Just know, I will be catching up and dethroning you myself from your #1 spot. Kamakiri spoke in a somewhat arrogant way, which made many sweat drop, but Naruto had accepted the challenge as he grinned at him. Oh, you're more than welcome to try, but I won't make it any easier for you to catch up to me, said Naruto with a smirk, which made Kamakiri grin as he took it as an obvious challenge, and he vowed to catch up to Naruto weights and beat him. Everyone laughed as they all felt the urge to train hard and follow on Naruto's lead. All of them realized that if they want to achieve their dreams, they need to put forth the effort to achieve them. Maybe, just maybe they could all be strong enough to stand by Naruto's side. The UA staff had watched all of this through the cameras that were installed in the classroom, with Vlad sitting with a look of absolute pride while the staff all looked very impressed. Nizu smiled as he was glad to have placed Naruto in 1B instead of 1A. I hope you guys liked the story. If you did, click on any of the videos which are popping on the screen right now. I promise you'll love them too. If you like my videos, you can like and subscribe too. I'll see you on another amazing What If video, guys. Love you all, peace.